many Guitar Hero games do you think there are? Wrong, there's 30! And I'm gonna play every song from every game on Expert and then rank every single last one of them. Hi, I'm Club, and welcome to Club's Hub. Are you ready to rock? A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, sorry, it's a little harder than I thought. Now, I know what you're thinking. Where'd his hair go? Don't worry, this is just a bald cap. Guitar Hero has and continues to play a super important part in my life. Being surrounded by a slew of musically gifted family members, such as my brother, who's gone on to release his own singles, or being surrounded by a bunch of talented friends, Guitar Hero is the closest I can get to feeling like I'm actually playing an instrument. I'm a disgrace to my family. And with the sudden rise and oh so sudden decline of Guitar Hero, I've grown to miss it over the years. I still have my old Rock Band instruments still in my possession from when I was a kid, and it caused me to want to find a way to relive my childhood and play through some of the Guitar Hero games. I happened across Clone Hero, which is a great way to replay songs if that's all you want to do. Heck, you can even make your own songs like I did with my aforementioned brother's song, Summertime in Arkansas. But this really wasn't scratching that itch for me. Oh, thanks! No, I needed the aesthetics, the venues, the characters, and most importantly, the nostalgia. What started out as just wanting to play through Guitar Hero 3 or Guitar Hero 2 turned into buying the entire Guitar Hero library. And with such a purchase, it's only natural that I find some way to monetize it, right? Anyway, so here's the plan. I bought pretty much every game on the Xbox 360, since that's the easiest way to get footage that's in HD, and it's also to save a little money. You'll see why in a bit. First, I'm going to talk about the development just a little bit, and then after that, I'm going to play everything on Expert. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to beat everything on Expert, but I'm not gonna lie, kind of impressed myself as I was working on this project. I usually played Expert as a kid, but I was still really worried since I was going into these games blind for the most part. Lastly, I'm going to rank everything on the wall of ranking! Which is just me on a green screen showing you where everything goes. Now, instead of talking about all of these games in the order that they were released, I've decided to organize this video into a narrative that doesn't feel as jarring as the actual order that they were released in. Now, you may be wondering, how on earth am I going to do a video that has so much licensed music in it? Well, no need to worry. I talked to my lawyer and I gave him a bunch of my footage that I recorded, and he gave me a VHS tape that has all of the B-roll that I'm allowed to use. So I figured we would take a look at this together since I haven't looked yet. So let's see what we got here. Fantastic. With all of that out of the way, let's get started with the game that started it all. The development for Guitar Hero started when the hardware company Red Octane discovered a Japanese game called Guitar Freaks. This game was a popular arcade and PlayStation 1 game made by Konami that featured a guitar-shaped controller. The player would have to strum 3 notes that would be falling down a column or raise their guitar for a wailing bonus on the 4th column. This game was a hit in Japan, and seeing the success, lead designer Rob Kay sought to bring that success to North America. Several attempts to acquire the funding for the creation of the guitar controller and game was a bit of a struggle at the beginning. Reaching out to companies like Acclaim, who turned down the proposition claiming, who's going to buy a peripheral like that? But in the end, it was the current bigwig in rhythm games Harmonix that saw the potential in the project and agreed to help. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, that's because that's the company that went on to make Rock Band, something that I don't think's gonna come up again in this video. When creating the game, they felt like there were 3 aspects that went into making the magic sauce of the game. Note matching and making sure everything lined up as you played the game, whammy and tilting the guitar to make it feel like you were playing a real guitar, and finally star power to make you feel like a real rock star. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute Club, did you have to buy all these peripherals or did you just already have them?
Yes. You see, one of the biggest problems with playing these games is that some of the instruments just don't work with some or most of the games. This right here is the red Gibson for the PlayStation 2. It only works for the PlayStation 2. The whammy is busted, it's missing a strap, and it cost me $50. I hope you're now seeing one of the biggest problems I had making this video.
For those of you who don't know how Guitar Hero works, it's pretty simple. A highway of notes will come your way, and all you have to do is hold down the correct color and then subsequently strum as the note passes the playing field at the bottom. There are different types of notes though. There are single notes, chords, sustains where you have to hold the note, and hammer-ons and pull-offs, or hoppos for short, where you can press a note with a giant white circle without having to strum as long as you hit the note prior. There are other special techniques that you can perform as well that will help you become a real guitar hero, such as being able to hold down a note further up the neck of the guitar and still being able to press the note further down at the same time, almost like playing a chord. This is to simulate a real guitar. And lastly, we can't forget about star power and whammies. Star power serves two functions: grabbing you a higher score by giving you double your score streak, and also saving your butt if you're about to fail a song, which will happen if you miss too many notes in rapid succession. To gain star power, you need to hit a combo of star-shaped notes in order, and once you've done that twice, you'll have enough to activate star power by either tilting your guitar vertically or pressing the select button. You can also use your whammy bar to gain more star power on star notes that are sustains, the only purpose the whammy bar serves. It was a common misconception that you would get more points if you whammied notes, but this simply isn't the case. It only gives you more star power and makes a funny sound, nothing more. The different tracks of the songs would usually take harmonics about a day to make, and after the creation of them, they would use software algorithms to adjust the game to different difficulties, with quality assurance coming in for the touch-ups. As far as the art style and aesthetic choices of the game goes, Harmonix was having a hard time trying to create realistic looking graphics on the PlayStation 2, but because of that, they decided to use that to their advantage to give the game a hard rock look to it, ultimately using the limiting power of the PlayStation 2 to their favor. But to create those assets, Harmonix opted to use motion capture to capture all the on-screen animations, a decision that would carry over to future games in the franchise. But more importantly, what about the music? With a wish list of over 100 songs and several battles over licenses, Harmonix was having a hard time getting music into their music game. Because of how hard it was to acquire masters of songs back then, it was ultimately decided to make covers of all the songs. Enter Wave Group Sound, a music production company that in the end garnered most of their attention through the covers they made for Guitar Hero.
Now, most hardcore Guitar Hero fans would say that these covers are terrible, but when I was a kid, I didn't even know that they were covers. Couldn't even tell a difference. I specifically remember hearing Carry On My Wayward Son on the radio and wondering why it sounded so weird. I didn't even realize that the songs of Guitar Hero were covers until I was doing research for this video. That's how clueless I was to how bad the songs were.
In the end, I think they did a phenomenal job covering these songs, with a final setlist total of 40 in the game. They had bangers like Ace of Spades by Motorhead, More Than a Feeling by Boston, Bark at the Moon by Ozzy Osbourne, and speaking of Ozzy Osbourne, they even went as far as recreating effects for certain songs, like buying the exact type of metal fan from Craigslist that Ozzy used in the song Iron Man. How cool is that? You'll also notice that 17 of the songs are master recordings of indie groups from Boston, Massachusetts, mostly making up of Harmonix employees since they were based out of Cambridge. This was a nice way to fill out the set list for their new game, but also a nice way to help out indie groups in the local area.
On November 8th, 2005, Guitar Hero launched for the PlayStation 2, and now, after all that work they did and all that build-up, I'm finally going to play this game for the first time ever. Damn it.
Okay, so here is the biggest, most egregious thing about the Guitar Hero franchise. It's a rhythm game.
What?
Because of that, the biggest obstacle that I'll be facing throughout the entire video is not the money or the age or the challenge of playing these on expert. No.
It's the lag.
You see, playing these games requires you to be able to keep rhythm, and that's not going to be very easy if when you hear the song, see the notes, and when you actually strum, none of it lines up. The solution to this problem is to add a calibrator to the game, something that will help sync the video and audio so that everything feels right. So, what was their solution to this in the first Guitar Hero?
They didn't do a damn thing!
There is absolutely zero ways to calibrate your game with the first Guitar Hero. Not one single way. To be fair, these games were the first of a kind and were initially designed with CRTs in mind, not flat screens. And believe it or not, CRTs have far less lag than flat screens, practically none. So trying to play this game was so unbelievably difficult because I essentially had to play all the notes early to what I was hearing, leading to a mind-numbing playthrough.
I have a pretty good sense of rhythm, so it was really difficult for me to have to struggle through all these songs, trying to hit all the notes early. Nevertheless, this game isn't too difficult.
I knew going into these games that there were going to be some pretty big roadblocks, but since this was the first attempt at making something like this, I assumed they didn't want to make anything too challenging, especially since this would be the first time anyone in America would be playing something like this. They did offer a little bit of replayability though, which is always welcome. As you play the game, the better you do on a performance, the more cash you'll receive. The more cash you receive, the more goodies you can get, like bonus songs, new guitars, and other goods to help motivate you to be the best guitar hero you can be. This method of getting money and using it to buy bonus content was such a good idea for replayability that they reused it for several games moving forward. Hey, you can even use some of that money to buy new characters.
I will say though, I don't think these graphics age nearly as well as I think they thought it would.
While the character designs themselves look good, the constant close-ups of the characters are kind of terrifying to look at, and sometimes the characters even will just straight up break and stare into the endless void, awaiting the sweet embrace of death. Oh hey, look, you can play as Death!
But even with the characters looking a bit rough, the overall charm and aesthetic and love that went into this game is so noticeable. It's like taking a trip back to 2005 when these types of games were new and innovative and not just mindless cash grabs. It's just a shame that this game doesn't hold up nearly as well with the inability to calibrate and the fact that it's only on one console. So with that, where does it go on the wall of ranking? Well, obviously number 1, since we haven't even talked about any of the other games yet, but the game really was number 1 to a lot of critics and reviewers, and it even went on to win a ton of awards. The team behind it didn't think it was going to be nearly as successful, but because of that success, it was only inevitable that we would soon get
Developer John Tam said at the time that they felt like they had hit the sweet spot of genres and decades with the setlist from the last game and wanted to maintain that with Guitar Hero 2. And because of how widely successful the first Guitar Hero was, they were able to land a ton of product placement to help further finance the game. Products like Epiphone, Guitar Center, Line 6, and many, many more. However, in the midst of working on this game, it was at this time that Activision acquired Red Octane, and because of that acquisition, it pushed the game from not just being on the PlayStation 2, but expanding to the quote, ever significant new format of the Xbox 360.
And this is where I made my next and hopefully last guitar peripheral purchase with the Guitar Hero 5 Band Hero guitar for the Xbox 360. And here's why.
While I could have gone with something for the PlayStation 3 or Wii, my preferred consoles, it came down to two things. With the Wii, my footage was going to look like garbage since the Wii can't do anything past a component output. But the real kicker was trying to get PlayStation 3 controllers.
Have you ever looked into trying to buy a PlayStation 3 guitar controller? They're pretty affordable. So you may be asking, why didn't I just do that? Well, it's because of this thing, the controller dongle. In order for you to use a guitar controller on the PlayStation 3, you have to use these. And when you're buying a guitar used, they usually don't come with these, which then means you have to try to find one. Trying to find one for the ultra-specific guitar that you have with the ultra-specific dongle is like trying to find my long-lost son. He's still out there, I just gotta keep looking. However, with the Xbox 360 controllers, you can use them wirelessly, and if you get the Xbox 360 PC adapter, you can even use them on your computer. But that wasn't the only reason I got this specific guitar.
There have been several released guitar controllers over the years that Guitar Hero was coming out, and because of that, most of them only work on specific games. Looking at a compatibility chart,
this guitar was one of the few that worked on almost every single Guitar Hero and Rock Band game, and was highly recommended by hardcore Guitar Hero fans for durability and feel, and I think I can second that. This thing has been a trooper, lasting several hours of abuse and working on the same batteries that I put in it the day I got it. I highly recommend this guitar. Anyway, since I have an Xbox 360 guitar, I think it's finally time to play Guitar Hero 2 on the Xbox 360. So anyways, it's time to play Guitar Hero 2 on the PlayStation 2, which released on April 3rd, 2007. And while we do that, I'm just gonna go ahead and order another copy for the Xbox 360 so that we have better footage.
Immediately, this is so nostalgic to me. This was actually my entry into these games. I remember being in GameStop and walking around the corner and seeing my mom playing Guitar Hero 2 and my eyes lighting up like a Christmas tree at the fact that my mom was playing a video game. If my mom liked it, I knew I would like it.
And like it I did. This game is what inspired me to listen to older music that was well past my era and gain a greater appreciation for it, something that I believe was fully intentional in the creation of these games.
With 74 songs combined between the PS2 and Xbox 360 version, there are some absolute classics on here. The aforementioned Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas, Message in a Bottle by The Police, YYZ by Rush, Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, Jessica by the Allman Brothers, and of course Freebird by Lynyrd Skynyrd. This game's soundtrack is an absolute blast to play through, and those songs are made a little easier to play through this time since they added the ability to calibrate. However, it's a very limiting calibration, only adjusting the audio and not the video. Because there's only one, it's almost like it's doing nothing. My brain can't just magically picture the notes to be sooner than how I'm actually seeing them, and because of that, this game is still pretty dated and harder to play unless you play it on a CRT TV.
Ah! Oh, hey, look! My copy of Guitar Hero 2 came in. Okay, well, now we can pick up from the top and get better footage. Let's just put this thing in here. Oh, that's strange, it's sitting on a cable. Well, I'll just move that real quick and... Well, that didn't sound good. I swear, if I have to buy another copy, I'm gonna die. Do you know you're not supposed to move your Xbox while it's running?
I certainly didn't know that since I didn't grow up with an Xbox 360, and because of my stupidity,
I'm now the proud owner of 3 copies of Guitar Hero 2 for the Xbox 360.
Now that everything is working, let's talk about the actual game. For starters, hammer-ons and pull-offs feel way better in this game, since in the first Guitar Hero you had to be very accurate with how and when you were pressing and releasing buttons, something that was fixed in this game and persisted for later titles. The characters and models received a greater improvement as well, making them more expressive and nicer on the eyes. And as mentioned earlier, the game has an amazing soundtrack. The love and passion that was present in the other game is still here and accounted for, with several fun little moments thrown in and something that really sends me back in time, behind the scenes footage. This was something the first Guitar Hero did as well, but I wanted to mention here how much of a blast to the past something like these goofy little videos are of the developers having fun making their game. It's a really nice reward for putting so many hours into the game. Hours I mostly accumulated with my first hurdle, Freebird. The song isn't particularly difficult, but I did have to beat it twice, once on Xbox 360 and the other on the PlayStation 2, with my greatest enemy of the song being the audio sync and the length of the song. The song is nearly 10 minutes long, and it doesn't really get too difficult till the last third of the song, where you're really scraping by with your star power to stay alive. I don't feel like this song would have been nearly as difficult if I didn't have to worry so much about the audio calibration. But that wasn't the only song I had trouble with. When I said every song, I meant every song. That includes the extra songs you get at the end of the game, so you know what that means.
Buckethead's Jordan.
This song was specially created and designed for Guitar Hero 2 to give the hardcore fans a real challenge, and a challenge it was. I tried several times to complete this song on both PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360, but to no avail. The amount of audio latency is so incredibly awful that it's almost impossible to play. But as a proof of concept, I did pull up the same song with the same chart on Clone Hero just to see if it was possible, and I beat it on my first try.
So yeah, I don't really have any intentions of trying to beat this on an actual copy of Guitar Hero 2. Maybe whenever I gain the ability to force my brain to hit notes early. Then I could beat it.
In the end, even with all the hiccups of me trying to play this game, it was a blast to relive it and see all the improvements and additions they made to the game after Guitar Hero 1. Between the fun venues and songs, it's something that I would love to revisit in the future.
On Clone Hero, because it's practically unplayable on console. Definitely gonna put this one above the first one. It may be nostalgia talking, but I think they made a lot of great improvements that would only get better as the franchise grows. So now what? Time for Guitar Hero 3, right? Wrong! It's time for some cash grabbing with Guitar Hero's first delve into spin-offs.
This was the start to an inevitable point in Guitar Hero's success. As with most games that have a popular franchise, it's only natural to cash in on it more and make spin-offs.
Although I would call this game more of glorified DLC. While there most certainly was DLC back then, this game was developed for the PlayStation 2, since the game it was originally designed for was on the PlayStation 2. While Xbox 360 owners were getting actual DLC, PlayStation 2 owners were getting Guitar Hero Encore Rock the 80s on July 24th, 2007.
And with this being based around the 80s, the setlist is pretty good with a total of 30 songs. I've grown a huge fondness of 80s music ever since I started playing Guitar Hero as a kid, so to have a game with songs like Ballroom Blitz by Crocus, Heat of the Moment by Asia, and I Ran by A Flock of Seagulls really made me feel like I was missing something that past me would have really enjoyed, especially since they have I Wanna Rock by Twisted Sister, or as I know it, the inferior version of Goofy Goober Rock. A lot of the problems of this game specifically is that it's quite literally a reskin. We're going to talk about games later in the franchise that definitely feel copy-pasted, but this game is by definition copy-pasted. Venues are the same with an 80s twist, and the same can be said about the characters as well. They just gave them new clothing and called it a day. It's just a bit disappointing, since it could have been really cool to see some entirely new venues, or anything new at the very least. But everything down to the menus you use to navigate the game just feels the same. At least the songs are good, and it's still Guitar Hero, so it's fun to play, and for some reason the calibration feels better somehow.
Although that may just be my Stockholm Syndrome talking.
Either way, I did still have fun playing through a lot of the songs, especially the last song, Play With Me by Extreme, an incredibly fun and fast-paced song that I lost to several times, but didn't mind having to redo it all that much because of how incredibly cool sounding and entertaining the song was.
It just sucks that doppelganger feeling left a bad taste in my mouth, a taste that unfortunately I'm going to have to get used to in the near future. But before that, because this game is a little bit more playable in the first, and because I just overall like the set list, I'm going to situate this game right in between Guitar Hero 1 and 2, ranking it at number 2 out of the 3 games that I've played so far. And now the moment that I've been looking forward to the most, and the moment that I'm pretty sure is going to have the highest spike on my retention chart. You all know it, so I don't have to say it. But I'm gonna say it anyway. This was peak Guitar Hero. Here, King, you drop this.
After the purchase of Red Octane by Activision, it was slowly followed up by MTV purchasing Harmonix, leading to Harmonix's removal from future Guitar Hero games.
Those purchases would go on to create a fierce rivalry between the companies. To most people, that was just another way to play more of your favorite songs, but to others, you had your favorites. I personally loved both of them, so maybe I'll make a Rock Band video in the future. Who knows? We'll have to see how this one does first.
Activision had a decision to make when selecting the new developers for Guitar Hero and ultimately landed on Neversoft, a company made popular by their Tony Hawk Pro Skater games. The new team got to work right away, and head of development Alan Flores commented that Guitar Hero 3 was deceptively simple to create, and it took much more work than their 30-person team thought it would take to recreate the gameplay of Guitar Hero. Over time, they got a system down for charting songs, and created an automatic hammer-on and pull-off system so that they could direct most of their attention to the character design.
The character design was actually something that I noticed growing up. Young Club definitely took note of how different the characters looked.
But this came in part with the fact that the designers wanted to update their looks with more realistic textures and models to keep up with the ever-changing console generation. And to add to that realism even more, they brought in real-life rockers to put into the game. Bret Michaels, Tom Morello, and Slash were all motion captured and digitally added to the game, making this the first Guitar Hero with special guests.
Then on October 28th, 2007, Activision and Neversoft graced us with one of the greatest Guitar Hero games of all time, Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock for the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Wii, and Xbox 360, with later releases on PC and Mac.
Right from the minute I turned this on, I knew I was going to have a fantastic experience. For starters, the calibration has finally been fixed, and now my notes feel like they are actually landing and playing correctly, leading to a much better play experience. Once you actually get to naming your band and starting the game, you can immediately tell how much Neversoft wanted to get this right, by introducing a story into the game with animated cutscenes. It's not much, but I don't know exactly how much you could do with a game that's only about playing the guitar. Either way, they did it, and they finally made your band members that have been around since the first Guitar Hero serve a little bit more of a purpose. I always enjoyed these goofy little band members they gave me and their super stiff and unrealistic animations. I always kind of wondered if there was any kind of story about how you met them or something like that.
I even checked the manuals of the past games, and I couldn't find anything, so it was nice that Neversoft was thinking of them when... Holy fish paste! Why does he look like that?
I've honestly become a little numb to how he looks over the years, but like, this poor man could easily blow the house down of any three little pigs with lips like that. Or he could use those lips to do something a little, something musical, like seeing all 73 songs they added into the game. This set list is one of the absolute greatest of all time. They were even able to get more master recordings than usual. They had bangers like Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses, The Metal by Tenacious D, Barracuda by Heart, Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson, One by Metallica, and so many, many more. But this wasn't all they did with this game. No. Remember when I mentioned that they added in Slash and Tom Morello? Well, that's because they show up through the game to challenge you to a guitar battle, and I love this idea. Basically, you take turns against them playing these custom songs that they made for the game, and when it's your turn to play, you need to hit all the star power notes to grab a random power-up that you can then use on them to make them fill the song. This was such a wonderful idea, and I'm glad that it's not only in career mode, but also in multiplayer as well if you want to go against your friends. Beyond that, they also adjusted how hammer-ons and pull-offs work to make them more forgiving. Because of this change, it made it feel way easier to shred in general, especially since the way that they handled hammer-ons and pull-offs is exactly how Clone Hero handles it. So I felt pretty comfortable using it in this game.
This game is just so unbelievably fun, but it's also one of the hardest games I've ever played in my entire life. I knew I was going to be hitting a wall soon, but I was really hoping it wasn't this soon.
Raining Blood by Slayer. This song destroyed me. The overall song isn't too difficult, and the beginning minute and 40 seconds is pretty simple, all things considered. Then it throws some...
Right, sorry, I completely forgot that I'm not supposed to be using copyrighted audio. I'll just replace it with copyright-free audio and we'll try again. It throws this at you. Like, what the fuck?
I mean, what is this garbage, and how do you expect me to do that? For those of you at home who don't understand how hard this is and are just screaming at your screen saying, just hit the notes, forehead.
Okay, first of all, rude. Second of all, I would have to be moving my hands so fast I'd be starting a fire.
It doesn't help that this particular section of the song goes on for way too long. So no matter how much practice I did or how much star power I had at my disposal, I could not beat this song. It got to a point where I wouldn't hit notes at the beginning of the song and I just looked at memes for like a solid minute while I waited for the hard part to show up just to see if I could magically beat it this time. And so many times I would get right past it and fail immediately. How'd you like this in Christmas? On Christmas Island. I tried playing this stupid song for 4 hours straight. And you know what?
I beat it.
And I mean barely beat it by the skin of my teeth. But the amount of adrenaline and excitement I felt after beating that song for the first time ever on Expert was so unbelievably satisfying.
I need a nap.
As the game comes to a close, you have one final battle against the devil himself, playing the song The Devil Went Down to Georgia. This fight kinda sucks. The song is great and I love it, but the fight feels incredibly one-sided. So I use that to my advantage. I waited until I had a whammy power up and I used it on him while he had this long string of notes, and I won instantly.
Hey, the devil's gonna cheat you, so you know what you gotta do? You gotta cheat the devil back. Can I get an amen? Hallelujah.
With the devil defeated and the game completed, there's no more songs to play.
That's right, not a single one. I couldn't possibly think of another song that would be in this game. Nope, none whatsoever. It's definitely not one of the most well-known and hardest songs in all of Guitar Hero. alright, I'm not gonna lie to you, and I'm not gonna build up some narrative. I couldn't beat Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force, but don't think for a second that I didn't try.
I tried for a while, practicing over and over and over again, but if I can't even get through the first 4% of the song, what hope do I have to get through the whole thing? I was able to beat it on hard, no problem, but that's just not satisfying enough to me. I would love to beat it someday, but if I wanted this video to even exist, I had to give up.
Maybe I should stream it someday. It could be really exciting, or it could be the most repetitive and boring stream you've ever seen in your entire life.
So let's see here. It looks like I beat every song except Through the Fire and Flames on Expert, but that's odd. I'm missing 6 songs. Well, that doesn't make sense. But I know there's songs I haven't played through because Monsters by Matchbook Romance is playing on the main menu. What's going on?
Surely it's not DLC. I mean, I know there was DLC, but I can't access that legally without homebrewing my Xbox, and I'm not about to do that. There has to be some way to...
6 of the songs are locked behind co-op multiplayer. Well, that's just wonderful.
Okay, so I have 3 options. The first is, who cares? I beat the game, I saw the credits, that's it. Who cares? You guys don't, surely, right? I can just move on.
The second option is I could cheat. These games have cheat codes, and I could just enter in the cheat that lets me get all the songs. The third option is... I will experience these games the way they are intended to be played by any means necessary. So...
I bought another guitar, and I brought a friend. Say hi, Amos.
Hi, Amos.
Now, most real guitarists would say that they are bad at Guitar Hero, and Amos here is a real guitarist. Because of that, Amos played on Medium and I played on Expert, a decision that has no consequences, thankfully. Co-op career is pretty interesting. You play through songs and go through venues in a completely different order than the base game, and your reward is new cutscenes and songs during the Encore. You both share a rock meter and star power, and one player will play lead guitar while the other will either play bass or rhythm guitar. And after all that nonsense, I now have every song unlocked, but there's so much more you can do and get in the game. I haven't even mentioned all the crazy and fun looking guitars you can get and the new outfits and characters you can buy that go above and beyond the stuff you could buy in previous games. Neversoft had a pretty big challenge in front of them, and I think they did a fantastic job on their first attempt. You can tell how hard they tried with literally everything. The way you navigate menus, the incredibly diverse and interactive venues, all the special effects and extra details like star power particles and animations for note streaks, having the best Encore presentations in any Guitar Hero game, present or future, making the actual gameplay feel a lot more responsive and playable as opposed to previous games, and just so much more.
Guitar Hero 3 is a phenomenal game and one that I will always be coming back to. It's a ton of fun, has so many great songs, and has a great challenge. It has a ton of replay value with high scores you can seek and the stuff that you can buy, and it even has a fantastic multiplayer mode. Guitar Hero 3 will forever hold a special spot in my heart, and it's the game I always think of when it comes to the franchise. I'm so glad that I got to play it again, and I'm even happier that I got to play it with my buddy here. This one is painfully obvious. Guitar Hero 3 is number 1 on my list. Will something be able to take away its crown? Who can say? It's gonna take a lot to defeat the GOAT of Guitar Hero games, but it's gonna be even harder to defeat my nostalgia. Now, things took a weird turn after Guitar Hero 3 when... Amos, you can leave.
Oh, cool. Deuces.
Anyway, after Guitar Hero 3, things took a weird turn when they started delving into the world of handheld consoles.
This idea started taking form when the CEO of Vicarious Visions wanted to, quote, see if it was even possible to do a really good music rhythm game on the handheld.
It wasn't.
For a while there, it was pretty difficult to get the ball rolling on this project, since they had over 20 different ideas for a peripheral that would work on the DS before landing on a final design. To make the game the best it could be, they brought in a slew of different Guitar Hero testers to make sure the strumming mechanic would feel as perfect as possible.
It didn't help.
They brought in all sorts of different players, people who have never played Guitar Hero, people that were Dragon Force expert players, players all the way to real guitarists.
It didn't matter.
Before finally landing on a final design where the player would need to hold the DS sideways to strum on the touchscreen and fret on a peripheral that was plugged directly into the Game Boy slot on the DS. To keep the game from being too complicated, they at least removed one of the fret buttons, bringing the total down to 4. Now, I've been looking at this thing and debating for a while if it would even be necessary for me to even play these games. I grew up playing on tour, and I know how much of a headache it is to play on this thing, and just the idea of 3DS games with this thing, it just doesn't sound fun. I'm just not buying it. So I went out and bought it.
This thing quite literally sucks, but I wanted to play the games as intended. A decision I would soon regret. However, I didn't just play these games once. Oh no. I played them twice. Why, you may ask? Riddle me this, fellow viewer. How do you record footage for the DS?
While there are some options to send in your DS to get modified, I didn't feel inherently comfortable with this option, nor did I want to shell out that much money.
Which led to my only viable solution: emulation.
Thanks to YouTuber Guitar Hero Rocks for uploading a solution to be able to play these games with a real Guitar Hero controller. It was quite literally a lifesaver and helped immensely when capturing footage. It's not perfect, but it got the job done.
Now, on June 22nd, 2008, Guitar Hero On Tour, developed by Vicarious Visions, releases for the Nintendo DS.
Immediately, playing this on the DS does not feel nearly as good as they were claiming it would be. The biggest problem is the fact that there is no feedback to your strumming. Because of this, you never know if you've strummed far enough or if you're strumming too fast or slow. Now, on slower songs, that's fine, but as the game gets harder and harder with some of its songs, strumming up and down feels incredibly unresponsive, leading to me trying to only strum in one direction by picking up the stylus and strumming in the same direction again and again, something that wears you down very quickly. Fretting actually isn't too bad at all. It's pretty responsive, and the closest thing about this whole setup that feels like you're playing a real Guitar Hero controller. The only problem is it can get pretty tiring on your fingers and your wrists after a long play session.
But I wouldn't know anything about that.
The game itself is alright, nothing too crazy. Play through the songs of 5 different venues with your typical characters and a few new ones, your standard fare. However, the songs they chose were pretty unique, confusing some but exciting others. The final song total was 26, with songs like China Grove by the Doobie Brothers, Heaven by the Lost Lonely Boys, Jesse's Girl by Rick Springfield, Spiderwebs by No Doubt, Stray Cat Strut by Stray Cats, All Star by Smash Mouth, and a lot of other songs with similar genres. It wasn't really your typical metal or rock songs per se, which baffled a lot of people. I personally enjoyed the set list quite a lot, and actually the coolest part is that the songs were completely different for people in the UK.
But I'm not from there, bruv, so I didn't bother playing those songs.
There is another feature of the game called Guitar Battles that worked incredibly similar to the way Guitar Battles worked in Guitar Hero 3, with the biggest difference being that every power-up that had something to do with messing you up meant physically drawing lines on the touchpad or blowing in the mic or so on. Something I couldn't do on emulation, and because of that, I had no intention of doing it on original hardware either.
This is even after the fact that I learned you have to do all of that just to unlock one more song, because of course you do.
Listen, I could have lied and said I unlocked and beat it no problem, but where's the fun in lying? So instead, I just pulled it up on Clone Hero and beat it that way. Good enough, right?
This is gonna be a reoccurring thing if you haven't noticed. I want to try to beat all the songs, but if all else fails, Clone Hero is my saving grace. I enjoyed On Tour alright. Really wasn't much of a challenge as far as songs go. It was more of a difficulty of just trying to play the game than it was difficulty of the game itself. And because of that, this sucker's going on the bottom. If you thought for a second that this was going anywhere near the others, you've got another thing coming. Like I said at the top of the video, I'm not going to be doing these in release order. If I did that, these DS games would be popping up randomly throughout the entire video. So let's keep the mediocre times rolling and go to the next DS game.
Later in the DS game's development, the CEO of Vicarious Visions, Kartik Bala, stated that they envisioned On Tour as a trilogy, something that did come true, and because of that, we really don't need to say much more about the development, since they were all created pretty much simultaneously, releasing the entire trilogy in the span of a year.
Guitar Hero On Tour Decades released on November 14th, 2008 on the Nintendo DS, and it's worth noting that on my second playthrough of On Tour and the other DS games where I'm using a real guitar controller, that I'm emulating it, and because I'm emulating it, there's some pretty bad syncing issues.
There really isn't a whole lot you could do about this since you're emulating it, so similar to the first Guitar Hero, I just had to suck it up and try to brute force my way through these games, forcing my brain to strum about a second earlier than what I was hearing.
Although, this one in particular was really nice for me to brute my way through.
The gimmick of On Tour Decades is that you're, surprise, surprise, playing through all of the different decades, such as the 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. And because of that, you get a really diverse set list with 28 different songs. Songs like Dirty Little Secret by the All-American Rejects, I Believe in a Thing Called Love by The Darkness, Are You Gonna Go My Way by Lenny Kravitz, I Can't Drive 55 by Sammy Hagar, Sweet Home Alabama by Leonard Skinner, and even the likes of Buddy Holly by Weezer.
Damn it, I keep forgetting that I can't play the audio. Sorry, I thought it'd be funny if I played the Buddy Holly riff.
On Tour Decades also offers a slew of different types of outfits and guitars, giving off vibes similar to Guitar Hero 3. They've even got a guitar on here that's just a whole Nintendo DS. I love it! There's also the return of Battle Mode, and they even feature some better replayability, allowing you to play through the game with rhythm guitar or bass if you so choose. Definitely not required, however,
you have to play through all of them to unlock all the songs. Of course you do. Yet again, I have zero desire to do it all again, not once, but twice, just for a few extra songs. So to Clone Hero I go!
And I'm really glad I did, because while one of the songs was Smooth Criminal by Alien Ant Farm, which was no problem at all, the other song was Satch Boogie by Joe Satriani, an incredibly hard song that has zero reason to be on the DS. The fact that these monsters even considered putting something like this on a handheld rhythm game is insane. I beat it on Clone Hero no problem, but I'm extremely thankful I didn't have to play it on an actual DS. And I'm even more thankful that I won't have to be seeing this song again.
Guitar Hero On Tour Decades is probably one of my favorites of the DS games. I could see myself picking this back up again, but just for a little bit. These games tend to grind on you after a little bit. Because of that, I'm going to put this one above On Tour. In reality, they're both pretty much the same exact game as far as what you do and how you do it, but I personally feel like this game has a way better set list and just better replayability. With that out of the way, it's now time to jump over to the last game of the On Tour trilogy. Guitar Hero On Tour Modern Hits released on June 9th, 2009. Okay. So get this, they really wanted to make something new and exciting, really pump up the changes and add replayability. So how did they go about doing this? By making the most insufferably boring and tedious gameplay loop they could possibly think of.
You know what I hate in video games more than anything? Needless padding, grinding, mindless side quests, recycled content in the same game. It all sucks.
All right, team, the players want more gameplay. Any ideas?
How about we add more songs?
No, that won't work.
We could always add in cameos and guitar battles like in Guitar Hero 3.
Nah, that's too expensive.
Hey, I've got an idea. How about we make them play through the same songs over and over again just to progress through the game?
Brilliant! Give this man a raise!
Hooray!
I have no idea what they were thinking, but essentially each song has 3 requests from fans that you have to fulfill to go through the whole game. Now, it's not required for you to do all of them, but you definitely have to do a vast majority of them. And these requests start out fairly simple, but get more and more insane as the game goes on. It can go from something like get the multiplier up to 8, all the way to get 400 note streak on a song that's impossible to strum fast enough on the DS. There's only so many times that I can hear the same exact song over and over again. Doesn't matter if they're having me play it on bass or rhythm or whatever. I don't want to have to listen to the same 5-minute song 3 times in a row. And I wouldn't really say that its 28 song set list does it any favors. There are a few good ones in here, like The Metal by Tenacious D, or Miss Murder by AFI, or Paralyzer by Finger 11. Wait a minute, those are all from Guitar Hero 3. Huh. Yeah, this setlist didn't do much for me. The only standouts outside of those 3 were Ruby by the Kaiser Chiefs and Sweet Sacrifice by Evanescence. So overall, this may be the weakest setlist so far, but I don't think anything is nearly as egregious as them throwing Shockwave by Black Tide at you at the very end of the game.
How in the world do you expect me to do that on this little thing?
I cannot for the life of me understand how this made it past quality assurance. This is an absolute sin to put on a handheld console. Apparently, as of the writing of the script, no one has ever beat this song without missing a note on original hardware. People have done it by emulating it, but apparently it's nearly impossible to do with how fast the notes come in and how fast you have to strum on the DS.
Needless to say, I was not able to beat it on hardware or emulation, so I had to rely on my old buddy Clone Hero to take it down a peg. bootleg.
Something that took little to no time at all.
It's amazing to me how difficult they've made these last couple of games, and they just expected people to beat them on this thing, especially this last one being the worst offender of them all. I have zero desire to ever come back to it. It's the worst waste of 7 hours I think I've ever spent. And that means that this one is going straight to the bottom. Go directly to the bottom. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. Now I believe that should be all the DS games now, right? Okay. No, please, no. If I have to play another DS game, I'm gonna... Why do I keep dying? Okay, so I was going to talk about this game when we actually talked about Band Hero, but I just wanted to be done with the DS games, and this one is different enough that it's worth noting here. Band Hero for the Nintendo DS, like the Encore games, was developed by Vicarious Visions and released on November 3rd, 2009.
Right up front, this game tries its hardest to differentiate itself from the other DS games, allowing you to not only play the guitar, but also the bass, vocals, and even the drums.
Since we're jumping around with these DS games, it's worth noting that at this point in Guitar Hero's life, this was the standard as far as instruments go, but we'll dive deeper into that when it's relevant.
This is also the first one of the DS games to let you create your own character and instruments. However, for some strange reason, there's no main storyline, nothing at all. All you can do is play through all the songs on Quick Play, and that's it. Game over. It's a bit of an odd choice, especially since this wasn't something they did on the original Band Hero either. So I don't know why they made the final decision to not include any sort of progression other than achievements. Because of that decision, the order you play the songs in can change your perspective on the game wildly, since there is no difficulty progression. You can go from playing the easiest song in the world to playing something like,
Please stop doing this!
This is You Better Pray by Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, and this onslaught of notes is at the very beginning and end of the song. This song is on a DS. I don't know what Vicarious Visions' idea of difficulty is, but I don't tend to think of Brick Wall to be a very achievable level of difficulty.
I'm having so much fun!
This just... I couldn't do this on the DS at all. The fact that I was even able to get past it on the emulation after 3 hours is a miracle.
I'm just so unbelievably done with these games. How did they think any of this was balanced in the slightest? Breathe, club. Breathe.
Including that song, there are 30 total songs that are featured on the game, all of which are different from the console version, which is honestly nice to see. It gives a better incentive to picking up this version since the peripheral isn't really doing it any favors. It has songs like A-Punk by Vampire Weekend, Into Deep by Sum 41, Lump by the Presidents of the United States of America, Let's Get It Started by the Black Eyed Peas, and a lot of other songs of a similar caliber. Nothing too crazy here, other than the obvious. I think what's even worse is the fact that this game includes mini games for some reason. During a song, you get a chance to activate a mini game that you'll play out to give yourself a boost on the rock meter. And I hate this. Why would you even do this? It completely misses the point of the game. I don't want to play a Guitar Hero game to play mini games. To be fair, this was Band Hero, and it seemed like Band Hero was catering to a younger audience, but this sucks. Stop doing this. Do better. However, I think I would still take minigames over having to play the same songs over and over and over again any day.
Overall, Band Hero was okay. It had some songs I liked other than the obvious, but it was pretty straight and to the point from the very beginning. Not really a whole lot you can do except maybe go for the achievements if you really wanted to, but that's really all this game has going for it. And with that, I think this game deserves to be sandwiched in between On-Tour and Modern Hits. After all, it's still a DS game, and I don't want to have to think about these games again for a long, long time. I am so glad to be done with this stupid thing. All right, let's go back in time just a little bit so that we can get back on track with the console games. This time with Neversoft's first band-specific game.
After attempting to do a cover of Same Old Song and Dance from Guitar Hero 3, the president of Neversoft hated the cover so much that he got in contact with Joe Perry, who was able to provide the master. This connection is what eventually led us to Guitar Hero Aerosmith. The band themselves worked very closely with the team during production of this game. Similar to Slash, Tom, and Brett in Guitar Hero 3, the band members of Aerosmith did motion capture animations and body scans to better capture their likenesses for the game. The setlist of the game contained 42 different songs, mostly Aerosmith of course, with many additional songs being handpicked by the band themselves, calling them artists and bands that had inspired them or ones they had actually played with. For all the Aerosmith songs, master recordings were used, but there was a special case for some of the songs like Make It, Movin' Out, Mamakin, and Dream On, where the band specifically re-recorded the songs since it was from their first album. Joe Perry even remastered lead guitar on many songs so that it would work better with the overall feel and gameplay of the game.
On June 29th, 2008, just 7 days after Guitar Hero On Tour, Guitar Hero Aerosmith released for the PS2, PS3, Wii, and Xbox 360, with later releases on PC and Mac. And this was the one I was looking forward to the most. I didn't necessarily grow up with Aerosmith, but what I did grow up with was Disney World.
Disney World is home to the Rock and Roller Coaster featuring Aerosmith, and I used to ride this ride all the time. It's a launching roller coaster that blasts Aerosmith music into your ears the entire time you're riding it.
Something that clearly left an impression on me since I love these Guitar Hero games so much, and they were really starting to shape my love for music. Now, I didn't have this game specific growing up, so I'm really excited to dive into it.
Similar to how Guitar Hero Encore Rock the 80s was a copy of Guitar Hero 2, this game is a copy of Guitar Hero 3, but in a much better way. Instead of it being an exact copy with slightly modified assets, it's just using the same engine and UI as Guitar Hero 3. But even then, the UI is modified in a way that gives it its own nice looking aesthetic. It'd be great if they took a little more care into making it not look and feel like Guitar Hero 3, but I'm sure that in future releases they'll do a better job of making everything different and unique in its own way.
Eh? You know what this means, right? Yeah? You get it. I'm hilarious.
It is nice that they at least added even more stuff to the shop now, giving you even more replayability, but what in the world is up with the decision of hiding the different styles in the shop with a silhouette? How am I supposed to know what I'm buying? Great choice on the outfit, sir, but which style would you prefer? Black and red or stonewashed? Oh, I just haven't the finest idea. It's just way too hard to choose. Oh, that's sick! You actually get to play through the story of them becoming famous. This is one of my favorite things that they did. Throughout the game, you're playing as the opening act to Aerosmith at different iconic locations that they had performed at in the past. And in between all these different venues, you get these nice little interviews with the band members explaining what was happening with the band at that time and where they were going from then on. It was super cool and interesting to not only learn about the history of the band, but to learn it from the actual band members themselves.
You know, I'd never been inducted into anything. I thought you had to wear like a condom or something to be inducted.
Or to hear whatever the heck that was. No, Joe Perry! Stop beating your wife, Guitar! What did she do to you? You can 100% tell that they were very into this, and the amount of attention to detail and love that went into everything from the songs to the storytelling, the animations, to even stuff like Joe Perry using his talk box during Sweet Emotion and Run DMC stage diving off of the stage. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that Run DMC is in this game? Everyone is just animated so well, and you can easily see the love they put into absolutely everything. As far as difficulty goes, there weren't really too many terribly hard songs. I wouldn't really call it a walk in the park if you intend on playing every song, but I don't recall failing a single time. Just an overall great time to listen to some great music. And I wasn't the only one who agreed. The game was received exceptionally well, with the CEO of Activision claiming that Guitar Hero Aerosmith made more money than any of the sales that Aerosmith had made on previous albums. Something that makes a lot of sense to me considering how big Aerosmith was and is.
I'm just thoroughly impressed with this game overall. The setlist is fire, the gameplay is tight and responsive, and the love is clearly there from both the devs and the band. I just really fell in love with this game. It might honestly be a double whammy bias since this was on the Guitar Hero 3 engine, and it was also a band that I'm familiar with, but I don't care, this is my list. I can put it wherever I want. Speaking of which, BAM! As of right now, Guitar Hero Aerosmith is my number 2 favorite Guitar Hero game. Like I said, it's gonna take a lot to dethrone Guitar Hero 3, and while this game was great, it didn't really have that exact spark it needed to take down the king. Before we put Aerosmith behind us, if you're a fan of rock and roll, Guitar Hero, or just Aerosmith in general, I felt that it was worth noting that this is the last year that they'll be performing during their farewell tour. It's always sad to hear stuff like that, but it's pretty great that they're even able to still perform, even after Steven Tyler's latest injury. So if you really like them or want to see them, you should go check them out before they disband. So this is just something I thought I'd let you all know, since that's something that I found while I was doing research for this video. Now, can you hear that? There's a change in the wind. Something's coming. Something that will shape the future of Guitar Hero forever. It's...
Guitar Hero's old developer, Harmonix, had been hard at work with the Rock Band series, a game very similar to Guitar Hero, except aesthetic-wise, it was a lot more tame, and gameplay-wise, well, you know, drums and vocals were added to the scene. Rock Band was overall a huge success, and Activision wanted in on the action. However, it seems like there had actually been work done on a drum peripheral this whole time. Originally titled Drum Hero and trademarked by Red Octane and Activision, along with other titles like Guitar Villain, Drum Villain, Keyboard Hero, and Band Hero, the games would have been similar to Guitar Hero, but with said peripherals. But when Neversoft came into the scene, they had actually started development on Drum Hero before it inevitably folded into Guitar Hero. Since the drum was a new territory for them, they wanted the help of several real drummers on the design and feel of their drums. They asked such legends as Chad Smith, Stuart Copeland, and Travis Barker for their input, all of whom requested and agreed on elevated cymbals.
Yes, I bought some. Now, these are actually the Rock Band 3 Pro drums, but they work just the same. This is also a good time to mention that no, I did not play every song with every instrument. I'm not that insane.
Hey, dinner's ready.
What? I didn't say anything about the $5 footlong at Five Below. What'd you say? I'm not the crazy one, you are!
I did briefly consider it since I had been playing these games with my friends for fun while I was working on this, but I'm terrible at drums and it would take a lot of work to get up to the expert level like I am with guitar.
But hey, if you guys wanted enough, maybe I'll do a follow-up video where I talk about all of the instruments, or I could just do it in a Rock Band video. Let me know down in the comments below what you think.
Back to the development, this was one of the first rhythm games to feature open notes for the basis, where you just have to strum without fretting anything. This feature was originally going to be in Guitar Hero 3, but was later scrapped, believing it to be too difficult. The song creation workflow was a little different this time around with the inclusion of all the different instruments. First, a song was licensed and mixed before being passed on to a team to create a tempo map. Then it was passed to individual teams for the specific instruments to chart. They would then be charted for expert difficulty, play tested, and adjusted to make sure it had the right feel to it. Every song was then given easier charts based on the different difficulties. And then finally, the chart was evaluated for its overall difficulty and placed into the game's progression accordingly. When creating the songs, the team had a wish list of over 500 songs, but some of the licensors were being difficult, while others wanted to be more involved. For example, the band Tool. Tool agreed to allow 3 songs in the game, as long as they got a say in the artwork and charting of their own songs. This is what eventually led to the very ominous and trippy Tool venue you find in the game. The final set list was immense, with a total song count of 86 songs. And while the song selection was superb, it was also the very first time that Guitar Hero had nothing but master recordings, no covers to be found here. World Tour featured songs such as Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne, Everlong by the Foo Fighters, Beat It by Michael Jackson, Hotel California by the Eagles, Hot for Teacher by Van Halen, and so many more hits. This setlist is jam-packed full of amazing songs. As the game was getting closer and closer to release, a viral YouTube video simply called Bike Hero caught the attention of everyone. The video featured a teenager riding their bike through notes marked on the ground, making it look like they were playing Prisoner of Society by the Living End. It was revealed later that this viral video was actually a successful marketing campaign for Guitar Hero World Tour, garnishing over 3.5 million views at the time, and really bringing home how much effort they were putting into this game and its release.
On October 26, 2008, Guitar Hero World Tour released for the PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii, with later releases on the PC and Mac. To coincide with this release, they also released these huge boxes that came with the guitar, the drums, the microphone, and the game. And yes, I did just bring out my own box from my childhood just to show you that I had it. The only thing that survived in here was the microphone. Oh. Never mind, that is the Rock Band microphone.
Immediately launching into the game, you're presented with a brand new feature to Guitar Hero customization, the ability to build the perfect band logo. It's beautiful. This is a running theme with World Tour. You can create your own logo, your own characters, your own instruments, and even your own songs, which is super cool. The addition of creating your own songs actually originated from the hacking scene at the time. People would hack their copies of Guitar Hero to add in their own songs, and Neversoft wanted to lean into this. However, this feature kinda blows. It's super weird, confusing, and clunky to use. I didn't mess around with it too much personally because...
Look at me, do I look like a composer to you? God said no.
But what little I did mess around with it hurt my little head. I did, however, mess around with the character and instrument editor a ton. It's so cool to see all the different options you can do to create your dream character or instrument. They even added some decent replayability by adding things for you to buy in the store for your customization. Say hello to Club 1.0 and his instrument. Ah, the good old days when I had hair. You can even go as far as customizing the pre-existing characters as well, which is probably a good thing because to me personally, I don't really like these models as much as the Guitar Hero 3 ones. They're kind of hideous in a much more hideous way than the ones in Guitar Hero 3. And the new characters they added don't do them any favors. Like, look at Ricky here. He looks like he's about to wither away. I don't know why all the characters have to look so, hi there, Grundy. Are you Tennessee because are you from 10? You 10 from are you C from 10 cause you're from Tennessee. Anyways, the customization is much appreciated. It's just a bit disappointing that every time you play a new venue, your bandmates are completely different people, which I honestly hate. Let me have a full band of Grundys the entire game, you cowards! But speaking of new venues, there have been a ton of changes to different mechanics and gameplay. For starters, instead of playing one song at a time, you instead select a venue and play its entire setlist in one sitting. I love this. It makes it feel more like you're a part of a band playing an entire set. It's just unfortunate that I'm taken out of it a bit when the band members I'm surrounded by are shapeshifters that look different after every set. I miss them so much. Outside of that, there are a few changes and additions added to how charting works. First up are extended sustains, which are basically sustain notes that throw more sustain notes in the middle of your sustain.
Sustain, sustain, sustain. Sounds like a court hearing in here. Listen, you were all thinking it, and so was I. I didn't claim to be a good writer.
They're pretty simple, but from this game forward, they like to use them constantly, so best get used to them. Next, they added tap notes. Basically, they're these transparent notes that don't require strumming. You only have to tap the frets, and they count as a played note. These notes would usually come in when a non-guitar instrument was charted to the guitar, like a keyboard or something like that. They also show up during immensely intense solos.
To coincide with this addition, World Tour guitars and all future guitars were equipped with a slider bar. This slider bar could only be used during these particular sections, and it was just a way to make solos a little bit more manageable, so you didn't have to rub your fingers up against a bunch of buttons and could instead rub it against a flat surface. I got so many blisters trying to use this thing.
Lastly, they finally added the ability to stack your star power. In previous games, if you used your star power, all future star power notes would become regular notes while your star power was active. It wasn't until Rock Band came around that it introduced the ability to stack your star power, essentially meaning that you could get more star power while yours was active, making it easier to rock out longer.
Guitar Hero might have borrowed a few things from Rock Band, but this is one that I'm definitely glad made it through. And with that, I think that's all the new changes.
There's of course a lot of reoccurring features from previous games as well, such as multiplayer battle modes, DLC, and the inclusion of guest appearances. This time including the likes of Hayley Williams of Paramore, Jimi Hendrix, Zakk Wylde, Billy Corgan, Sting, Ted Nugent, Travis Barker, and even Ozzy Osbourne, which is an absolutely insane amount of guest appearances.
And if you're playing the career on guitar, 2 of them will actually challenge you to a guitar battle, while the others will only perform the song you're currently playing. And these battles are pretty difficult.
It took me some time and determination to be able to take down some of these battles, but nothing can compare to some of the later songs. Songs like BYOB, Hot for Teacher, and Crazy Train had my fingers flying off the fret buttons.
I've been watching a lot of professional Guitar Hero players up to this point, and I noticed that they have this special technique at hitting the notes faster that were going back and forth during a tapping section. Since you don't have to strum during a tapping section, they would then use this hand to help the other hand in hitting the notes faster.
Something that I got a lot of practice on for Crazy Train, and something I got incredibly good at with this game's song that was Dragon Force level of difficulty.
The return of Joe Satriani's Satch Boogie. I was afraid of this, and now the song is supercharged because instead of 4 frets on the DS, I have to deal with 5!
Thankfully, since I had heard the song on Encore decades already, I knew what I was getting myself into. But I was still in for a world of hurt, not because of the song as a whole, but mainly because of this part that requires you to hit so many notes in rapid succession that I resorted to using the touchpad to the best of my ability.
As mentioned earlier, I tried this part so many times that I ended up rubbing a nasty blister on my finger from all the rapid movement. Any faster and I would have started a fire. It's still burning!
But even despite how difficult this song was, it only took me about 30 minutes to beat it, and because of that I actually grew to love the song a lot, and now I can just bust it out and beat it whenever.
It was at this moment that I could really feel myself getting a lot better at these games, and because of that, my confidence in future titles grew even further. Maybe I have enough skill to play real guitar now. Nope. After all the new things they added, the brand new instruments, the killer set list, the replayability, the super satisfying gameplay, I'm putting this puppy at number 2. While I did almost consider putting it above Guitar Hero 3 just out of the pure joy I got out of playing it, I honestly just couldn't because of how fantastic Guitar Hero 3 is as a whole package. Well, we've reached a new era of Guitar Hero, and I'm gonna be honest, feels pretty good. I enjoyed my time with World Tour, so I'm really looking forward to the next game we're gonna be playing on Xbox and... Oh. Hello? Uh-huh. What? Son of a bitch! Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. First of all, none of you expected me to talk about this, did you? Well, I had to. It literally says every in the title. It had to be discussed. But how am I gonna go about doing it? Fantastic question. Well, you see, there's a local Dave & Buster's in our area that me and my wife Boo like to frequent. And it also just so happens to have a Guitar Hero cabinet there. So I took some notes, packed my stuff, told Amos he had to help me against his will, and headed down there. Take it away, Pass Club. Okay, so I'm here at Dave & Buster's. I have no idea how I segued myself into this, since I haven't even written the script yet, but I'm here. I picked quite a cold day to do this, but it is what it is. So I've got my good man Amos here, manning the camera. Say hi, Amos.
What's up, guys?
And I guess we're gonna go inside and play Guitar Hero Arcade. What could possibly go wrong, am I right? Amos, you gotta come with me.
I knew that.
Okay, so we have Guitar Hero Arcade. So this game was developed by Raw Thrills and published by Konami and Activision. The guitars are industrial strength to make them last longer, causing them to be incredibly heavy. This game specifically is a port, specifically of Guitar Hero 3 for the PC. Now, I'm gonna try to play through this, but I've heard that the owners of these will usually not calibrate them, causing them to be completely off. So I'm gonna give it a play and we'll see how it goes.
Now, while Pass Club is playing, he did miss a couple of points. This machine was originally released on March 15th, 2009, with 50 songs total. Since this was a port of Guitar Hero 3 for the PC, most of the songs are from that game, with additional ones originating from DLC. Songs like Hole in the Earth by the Deftones, Peace of Mind by Boston, and a few others. There are even songs that are labeled as premium as well, that require you to pay twice to unlock it. But thankfully for this machine, the owner decided to leave them all unlocked. I also clearly wasn't about to spend money on every single song, mostly because there were 10 of them, so I played all the DLC songs on Clone Hero since you can't access them legally anymore.
Let me get my final summarized thoughts here. It sucks. I mean, poppos don't work. Strumming up and down barely works because you have to strum so hard. It feels slightly off. It also, I don't know if you noticed, but you can't fail. You're always getting a winning score. If you want to play Guitar Hero to impress your friends, maybe this isn't the best way to do it, because you're gonna look terrible if you play this specific version. Well, this should be pretty obvious, but I'm going to be putting this game right in between the console games and the handheld games. While it sucks to play because of how unresponsive it is, I would still rather play it than the handheld games any day. Alright, good to be back home. Now that that's out of the way, we can finally hone in on our skills and devote all of our time to the next Guitar Hero. Mario Wonder and Spider-Man 2 came out around this time, sue me. But in hindsight, taking an unprompted 2-week break did have me especially worried for this next game.
When the idea for Guitar Hero Metallica popped up and they reached out to the band, Metallica accepted the offer, no hesitation, no questions asked, calling it a no-brainer, and development began immediately. Similar to past games, the band helped with animations and character models by having themselves perform motion capture for the game. In addition to that, the game featured special guests Lemmy from Motorhead and King Diamond from Merciful Fate, who also provided motion capture for their in-game appearances. They even went as far as to re-record the songs Ace of Spades and Evil respectively due to the original master tapes not being located during the game's production. But those are only 2 of the 49 songs featured in Guitar Hero Metallica. Now of course, in a band-centered game, it's going to be mainly focused on that band's music. Songs like Enter Sandman, Master of Puppets, One, From Whom the Bell Tolls, and many others. Metallica handpicked these songs, saying they wanted songs that were, quote, pretty evenly representative of all of their different phases. But for the non-Metallica songs, Metallica helped select these songs as well, saying they chose, quote, their personal favorites and influences from over the years. This is how we got songs like The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy, Hell Bent for Leather by Judas Priest, War Ensemble by Slayer, and a few others. But when charting these songs, the development team ran into some pretty big issues when it came to charting Metallica to the drums. You see, Metallica uses what's called a double bass kick for their drums that requires you to use both of your feet, which means it would be nearly impossible for a human to use one kick as fast as a double kick is being used. So they had 2 options: dumb down the charting to make it humanly possible with one kick, or
You know what they did.
they released a splitter so that you could attach 2 bass pedals together. The mad lads went and did it.
It was at this point in Guitar Hero's lifespan that every future game would feature every single instrument to compete with Rock Band. So I will reiterate this for the last time. I am only playing on guitar, nothing else. There will be no other instrument featured in this entire video. Not a single one. With that being said, on March 29th, 2009, Guitar Hero Metallica released for the PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii, with a later release on the PS2. This is where I dropped Guitar Hero as a kid, and after World Tour, I never looked back, so I'm looking forward to seeing what I missed out on.
Oh, it's just World Tour again.
Right, I knew that. Both Aerosmith and Encore Rock the 80s did it, so of course Metallica used World Tour. It only makes sense, but I'm sure it's just one and done. That's right, I'm sure we'll never see World Tour ever again.
You know, even though this is a reskin, it still feels pretty different. I gotta hand it to them. It's pretty similar in a way to how they handled Aerosmith, where you could tell the amount of attention to detail and the dedication they gave to absolutely everything in this game, showing exactly what Metallica had to offer.
I went into this not knowing a thing about Metallica, only seeing metal in their name and thinking I was in for a world of hurt. But honestly, for the most part, their songs are pretty good. I can definitely see why people like them so much.
The very first opening song, From Whom the Bell Tolls, was super sick, and I was so locked in and hooked after hearing that song, and even more bangers immediately following that. Am I becoming a Metallica fan?
Probably not.
Since the game is a reskin, it does feature a lot of the same features that were present in World Tour, such as all the customizations for songs, instruments, and characters. Say hello to Club 2.0, the most dapper of all the clubs. But for some reason, they removed Grundy from the game. Where's Grundy? Where'd she go? I will remember you. But there are actually some additional stuff they added to the game, such as a welcome change to the UI that now shows a progression bar of how many stars you'll obtain on a given song. A much needed addition, especially for high score or achievement seekers. Animations after each venue are back as well, something that was present in World Tour but only during the opening of the game. After that, nothing. So it's nice to see them bringing back these super stylistic animations with this game. I feel like they're a huge staple to the aesthetic and feel of these Guitar Hero games. They also give you access to all the lyrics of Metallica songs and even specific facts that work like a director's commentary to a song. So if you're into learning new things about Metallica songs that you might not have known, this gives you an outlet to do just that.
It's this kind of attention and appreciation to the bands that I really like to see. It's almost like these band-centered games are like love letters to not only the bands, but the fans who grew up listening to their music. And while I didn't personally grow up listening to their music, I can really appreciate that.
While there were some nice changes and additions, there were a few things that irked me about this game. For starters, they took away doing set lists like how you do them in World Tour. I loved doing those. It was nice to just pick a set and run through the whole thing, negating the need for more loading screens every time you want to play a song. This change, unfortunately, would persist in every Guitar Hero game going forward.
And I feel like the biggest reason why they even made such a change in the first place is because how long all these songs are.
I'm telling you, I didn't know a thing about Metallica before I went in, but if there's one thing I could take away from this game, Metallica's songs are way too long. Merciful Fate is 11 minutes and 12 seconds long. That is the entire length of a SpongeBob episode. I did the math, and the average length of every song in this game is 6 minutes long. So there were a lot of songs I was playing like,
Is the song over yet? Please.
it's not that the songs are bad. No, don't get me wrong. It's just that it becomes more of an endurance test than a game of skill. One that was dragging on me over and over again. There's only so many times I can listen to an 8-minute long song dreading that there's going to be some epic solo at the end that will make me have to redo the whole thing. And although that was a very real scare while I was playing through the game, I was actually able to breeze through this game pretty flawlessly. I could really start to feel myself getting better when it would throw these long chains of notes at me and I wouldn't panic and knew exactly where to put my hands and fingers in order to hit the notes practically effortlessly.
This is the kind of stuff I love about Guitar Hero. The amount of skill it takes to hit these sections that look intimidating is honestly pretty high, but as I've come to learn from this journey, it's a skill that can easily be picked up with enough practice. And while it's a pretty useless skill, it's a skill I derive a lot of enjoyment from, and that's enough for me.
As long as the charts are fun to play and the songs are good, I think that's all most Guitar Heroes need. But having a nice aesthetic, improvements, updates, and replayability are always good practices as well. After beating the game and using your money to buy things from the store, you can get some pretty nice after-game rewards. You can get access to things like guitars the band uses or footage of them performing concerts. And you can also get access to a venue called the Stone Venue, which was one of Metallica's first shows with Cliff Burton. It's just so nice that these games exist as a little bit of a time capsule of sorts for these bands. We have their music, of course, but these games also serve as a way of feeling like you're part of the band and experiencing their past alongside them, especially with all the facts you get to deep dive into, learning more and more about the band.
Even though it felt like this game was dragging on forever with the super long songs, I still really enjoyed it, just like I did previous games. So because of that, I'm really looking forward to what the future of Guitar Hero will be and see if they've made any improvements or if there'll be any love letters to talented musicians who have graced us with the joy of music. But first, where am I going to put this on the wall of ranking? How about here? While I did enjoy the game, I don't think that level of enjoyment could surpass the 3 above it. I just thought that their set lists were a lot better. But nevertheless, this game is still great and definitely worth your time. Another band-centered game finished, and I can feel my knowledge of music and skill at Guitar Hero growing! You know what? How about we relive some of our greatest memories of the past with the next game?
This game is a special case because it was developed by Beenox, another subsidiary of Activision, and they were tasked with creating a game celebrating past Guitar Hero songs. During the creation of Smash Hits, songs were selected based on whether or not PlayStation 3 or Wii owners had access to the songs in the previous games. In addition to that, they also wanted to pick songs that would be fun single and multiplayer. To help with the creation of the charts, Neversoft lended a hand by offering them the charts from previous games. However, Beenox only looked at the charts after they had created their own, after which they would modify the charts they had created to be a combination of the two to make what they considered to be the most fun. The final set list for the game had 48 songs spanning Guitar Hero, Guitar Hero 2, Guitar Hero Encore Rock the 80s, Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock, and exactly one song from Guitar Hero Aerosmith. Some of the songs included were Beast and the Harlot by Avenged Sevenfold, Killer Queen by, well, Queen, Back in the Saddle by Aerosmith, and a lot of other really great picks from the catalog.
Here's the biggest issue though. You ready for this? Guitar Hero Smash Hits released on June 16th, 2009 for the PS2, PS3, Wii, and Xbox 360. June 16th, 2009. The first game came out in 2005, so we're already making a compilation game after 2.5 years.
A lot of people will point this out, and it is a bit odd that they did this, especially since at the time this seemed too soon. This was unfortunately the start of the downfall of Guitar Hero, since its corporate oversaturation was starting to become more and more obvious.
But hey, it can't be too bad, right? I mean, it was made by a new company, so maybe they'll innovate a little bit.
Oh, this is just World Tour again.
Hooray. Can't wait.
You can feel it as you're playing through the game. The amount of just not caring and producing another cash grab is felt the entire time you're playing the game. Everything just feels the same. The gameplay, the characters, the customization, it all feels exactly the same.
I did notice one new addition called Wonder Outfits, but I'm not sure what they are, so I'm curious what they...
Oh, you can't do that anymore. Anyways, I wore them the whole game. They even had a London one showing how all the people from London dress. How come none of you told me that you have a rat that sits on your shoulder at all times? This whole game just feels like a husk, like it's nothing. The most I got out of it was that I did get to replay some of my absolute favorites from the past games. And to add to that, all of the songs being the master recording and you can now play with the full band is really nice. However, even though Beanox thought they were in the right for changing the charts, I really wish they would have just left them alone. Some of these charts are absolutely garbage. Barracuda by Heart is an absolute mess of a chart now.
Overall, this game is just needless fluff with a bunch of meh charts, and wait a minute, I just unlocked the last set of songs and...
Wait, I'm sorry. You mean to tell me that the last set of songs are all mostly final songs from previous Guitar Heroes? Bark at the Moon, Psychobilly Freakout, Freebird, Play With Me, and Raining Blood? Stop! On paper, this is exactly what they had to do. It's what makes the most sense. And because they have the ability to add tap notes and extended sustains to these songs, it should, in reality, be easier. But the charting, Beanox just didn't know how to properly chart songs. Coming across this literally stopped me in my tracks, and I was terrified to even attempt these since I was worried I would be stuck for hours trying to beat them. But to my own surprise, I actually beat all of them on my first try, no problem. And that sort of accomplishment only reaffirmed to me how much better I was getting at these games. There has to be an Encore song though, right? There always is. I wonder what it... Why did I do this to myself? Come so far and experienced so much only to be brought to my knees by the return of Dragon Force? I could have done literally anything else. I could have played all the Zeldas or played every Mario game or just gave up on YouTube altogether. But I decided to spend a metric crap ton of money on a needless hobby. For what? For views? Was it to prove something? Was it all for nothing? No. That wasn't what I wanted at all. I didn't just waste over half a year of my life on nothing. I had a purpose. I did it because I wanted to. I wanted to make people happy and laugh, to have a good time and enjoy watching the misery of a man who is only half decent at something that doesn't even matter. To watch his mind shatter as he tries to do the most pointless thing he could possibly do. I wanted to see people in the comments get inspired, not only to create banger videos, but to pick up the guitar, whether fake or real, and make a difference, either to themselves or others. I will conquer this song. I will defeat Dragon Force. And I will be a guitar hero.
Let's rock!
Well, this may take a little longer than I thought.
To be perfectly honest, the only reason that I even thought that this was going to be possible is because the opening section is tap notes. Because of that, I don't have to strum at all, and I can tap as fast as possible to hit everything on screen. Something I couldn't really do with the Guitar Hero 3 version because you either have to strum the entire time and hit everything with one hand, or strum once and never miss a single hammer-on and pull-off. Using the technique I showed you all a little bit ago, I was able to use both of my hands to get through the entire first section. However, it took about an hour or two just to perfect that.
But I wasn't backing down yet. I knew I could do it.
When I first discovered this song was in the game, I tried for about 2 hours and barely made any progress. The next time I picked up the guitar, I was determined to beat it. I practiced and practiced and practiced, but I was having difficulty getting past the 70-ish% mark. But any time that I did, I would get to about 95% and fail, which was devastating.
Listen, this song is 7.5 minutes long, and I I played it for 8 hours on my second playthrough. 8 hours, and I still didn't beat it.
It wasn't looking good. I was feeling defeated, and I was questioning whether this was even worth it or not, but I figured I'd give it one more shot. This time, things felt worse. Calibration felt so off. I was constantly adjusting it, and I was struggling getting past the intro, something I had mastered at that point. Every time that I would get towards the end of the song, I would just get so nervous that I would get way too shaky, causing me to choke at the very end every time without fail. I was getting ready to throw in the towel. Until, finally, after 10 hours of playing through the Fire and the Flames, I beat it.
I beat Through the Fire and Flames on Expert. I felt so unbelievably satisfied after that. It might not have been the Guitar Hero 3 version, but to say that I got good enough to beat any version of Through the Fire and Flames on Expert, well, it made me happy.
Anyways, the next day I went on to show Amos how hard the song was and how far I could get, and I beat it on my first try. I was so angry that I just beat it on my first try, but it also made me feel way better about my skills. I could start to actually see all this work I was doing was paying off. I really am getting better.
Okay.
But after beating that, what do you think the reward was? Any guesses? If you guessed the credits and nothing else, you'd be right!
So you're telling me you spent 10 hours playing one song on Guitar Hero just to end up with nothing but the credits as a reward?
And I know what some of you are thinking. Why don't you try it on Guitar Hero 3 now? Well, I did, and... It didn't go well at all, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna stop trying. It just might have to be sometime in the future. Oh, maybe on stream? So, Guitar Hero Smash Hits, am I right? It's... And because of that, I'm gonna be putting that game right here. Now, you may be wondering, wait, why is that game above Guitar Hero 1 and 2? Those games are great. And you're right, those games are great. But you know what those games don't have that this one does? It's a little something I like to call calibration. Believe me, if those games had it, they'd be a lot higher. Whew, nice to finally get out of that wig. I mean, I shaved my head. I'm not bald, you're bald. Anyways, now that we're done with the compilation of songs from the past 2 years, it's time for Guitar Hero to change it up a little with their next numbered entry.
At the time of creation of Guitar Hero 5, industry analysts were worried that the mass release of games would be terrible for the market. A Guitar Hero spokesperson, Eric Holreiser, said that the consumer research showed continued strong demand for all different versions of the games.
Please, food, water, multiple different versions of Guitar Hero.
I'm super surprised they even said something like this with the amount of games that were coming out, but more power to them if they think they can pull it off.
The final game released with 85 different songs, with this one being the most controversial set list at the time. Reason being, they decided to make the set list as diverse as humanly possible, alienating their core audience in the process. Because of that, we got songs like Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz, Hurt So Good by John Mellencamp, American Girl by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash, Spirit of the Radio by Rush, and I'm gonna be honest, a whole lot of hot garbage. It felt more like they were appealing to the band rather than to the guitar in a game called, you know, Guitar Hero. But that wasn't the only controversy this game started. There was a much bigger one that took center stage. Just like in previous games, Guitar Hero 5 featured the likeness and appearances of several different artists, including Carlos Santana, Shirley Manson, Matthew Bellamy, the previously mentioned Johnny Cash, and the big one, Kurt Cobain.
While I'm sure the initial decision to include Kurt Cobain was full of completely honest and positive intentions, the fans didn't really see it that way.
They found it odd that not only was he included in the game, but the fact that once he was unlocked, you could use his character to have him sing or play any song, meaning you could have him perform songs like Play That Funky Music by Wild Cherry or something like Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran. This left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, especially considering the possibility that the influence of commercialization pressure was the initial cause of him taking his own life. Courtney Love, widow of Kurt Cobain, shared her anger on Twitter, claiming she was going to take legal action after the way that they portrayed him, saying,
Sorry, Mom, Courtney Love's words, not mine.
For the record, this Guitar Hero is breach of contract on a bully's part, and there will be a proper addressing of this and retraction. We are going to sue the shit out of Activision. We being the trust, the estate, the LLC, and the various LLC's Cobain Enterprises.
Needless to say, she wasn't very happy, and for good reason, but if I could add in my own personal opinion here, I think it's kind of fun.
Sure, you can look deep into it, it can feel a little messed up, but I don't think there was ever an ill intention in what they were doing. It's just a fun little addition to the game. Activision basically chopped up the whole thing by saying they secured all the proper rights to do what they did. They had done nothing wrong. Courtney much later would admit that she thought Cobain would think it's pretty funny, but regardless of that, she still intended on suing. It took a couple years of fighting the lawsuit before anything happened, but in October of 2012, the case was settled for undisclosed terms, putting the case to bed.
Now you may be wondering, Club, that's great and all, but why didn't you tell us about the development of the game? Oh, that's a fantastic question. That's because I literally couldn't find anything. Guitar Hero 5 released on September 1st, 2009 for the PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii. Now the reason I couldn't find anything is because they had so many games coming out that they didn't even bother doing interviews or taking questions or even showing love to these projects that used to be a huge force to be reckoned with. Because of that, I want you to take a guess on how they did the development. Yeah, go ahead, guess. You got your answer? How about this? How about we spin a wheel to figure out how they did it? Ready?
Yep, that's right, it's still World Tour! Ah! Character creation, same. Instrument creation, same. Logo creation, same. And when I say same, I'm saying the options you're given too. Like literally everything was drag and dropped over into this game.
There's so much to unpack here and I'm getting a little agitated, so let's slow things down a little bit and talk about the good things first.
For starters, they finally let you choose who you want in your band, which is a much needed change. I was getting tired of having all these NPCs that just looked like they had hit the random button on the character customization every time I loaded up a song. It just sucks that they somehow managed to make the models look even uglier. Pandora literally looks like a Teletubby. Why did they do that to her? She looks stupid.
Right, sorry. Positive.
They also added these new challenges you can do for specific songs. They are completely optional, which is a huge plus, and every song has a specific instrument tied to it for the challenge. If you're using the appropriate instrument attached, a vinyl will show up during the song and fill up as you fulfill the requirements of the challenge. If you beat the challenge, you're rewarded with goodies, costumes, accessories for your instruments, or even fun extra modifiers like invisible instruments or turning your band into skeletons. The challenges usually aren't too difficult, like use the whammy a bunch or get really long note streaks or something to that effect. So it's a really clever way to add replayability to the game without the need of making you replay songs with the same instrument or relying too heavily on a shop.
Okay, good stuff over.
You may remember a long time ago how I said that the calibration with the audio and video was going to be my biggest hurdle this whole video. And while that has been true for every game that I've played, it's always been kinda one and done. I calibrate it and it works.
So please, tell me why they decided to change this system.
To calibrate in this game, you do the video calibration like you would any other game. But for the audio and audio only, you have to watch the notes cross the playing field and manually adjust whether it sounds good to you or not.
Sounds good. Except I literally can't tell the difference because it's milliseconds!
No matter how much I adjust the audio setting, it looks completely right every time, only for me to go into the song and find out it's way off. I wasn't able to really fix this until about 2/3 into the game when I had the idea to find a section of a song with a ton of repeating notes and use that to calibrate. So I'd go into the calibrator, pick some random arbitrary number, try to play the song, realize how awful it is, and then start the the whole process over and over again until I got it right.
How do you get something so wrong after doing so many games?
So it was already a struggle for me to enjoy most of these songs since it felt off for almost the entire game, but it certainly didn't help that some of the songs are extremely hit or miss. You've got the special ones in there like Smells Like Teen Spirit, or some of my favorites like Young Funk, You Give Love a Bad Name, and Sultans of Swings, but I'd say about 75% of this setlist is unfun, repetitive garbage that I was bored to tears playing.
There's this one song called Do You Feel Like We Do by Peter Frampton. Have you heard of that song? I sure haven't. Anyways, it's 13 minutes long. Doesn't that sound fun?
Okay, yeah, it was a little fun, but 13 minutes? Kill me.
No, bad, stop it.
All of the love and joy that was present in past games feels completely lifeless and drained away, leaving a joyless mess. Things like note streak effects that would happen every 50 or 100 notes are gone. The note highways are replaced with these generic, boring, colorless highways. Lightning effects and cool particles during star power are replaced with the color blue.
This may be a weird analogy, but do you guys know that one Fairly Odd Parents episode where Timmy wishes everyone was the same and then they just turn into gray blobs? It's basically how this game feels.
Boring, lifeless, joyless, sterile. Not a hint of fun is felt from the developers in this game. Gone are the days where you could tell that a lot of love and dedication went into the project to make it the best it could be. Instead, it's just a generic party game. I think that's the best way to describe this game. A party game first, a guitar game second. Every song that was selected and every decision made for this game felt like they were thinking about a party game. Just think about Guitar Hero 3 and how much fun it was to play through those songs. Every single one of them felt like they intended on making playing the guitar fun, in hopes of inspiring someone to be the next Slash or Joe Perry or whoever. I do not feel that here at all.
This game overall took me 10 hours to beat, and I'm gonna be honest, I think I got more joy out of trying to beat through the Fire and Flames for 10 hours than I did playing this mess. It's just so sad that this is the direction that Guitar Hero took, just pumping out more and more games.
Don't let up! Make more! They'll buy them all!
And because of the rate at which they were releasing these, it just led to them becoming more and more underwhelming. They might have made the best guitar peripheral for the game, but that's about all they had going for it. They were focusing way too hard on the band side of things instead of focusing on, well, the instrument that made Guitar Hero in the first place. Because of that, this doesn't feel like Guitar Hero 5, it feels like, I don't know, Band Hero. Wait a minute.
You know where this is going. Yeah. I think I'd much rather play an out-of-sync Guitar Hero game than to ever play Guitar Hero 5 ever again. Maybe the worst console Guitar Hero game I've ever played.
But we're not even close to finishing all the games. There's so many more to talk about. We've barely scratched the surface. So before we continue, I think it's time for the tables to be turned. All right, before we talk about development, yes, I'm talking about this game because it has Hero in the title, and it's considered part of the franchise/series. Don't complain to me, complain to the Guitar Hero Wiki fandom page.
Developed by Freestyle Games, DJ Hero was originally trademarked back in early 2008. This trademark led many to believe that Activision was competing with the already popular Beat Mania by Konami, a DJ arcade rhythm game. This, however, was not their intention. DJ Hero's main goal was to be designed around making the player feel like the life of the party, for them to take control of the game and feel cool amongst their peers, but mostly a game that would be welcome to any party. To help with the soundtrack for the game, Freestyle Games teamed up with Ofii Saki, owner of Crossfade Productions, to ensure the quality of songs in the game. To create the mixes, they used a combination of MIDI software along with the music sequencer Ableton Live to make the custom elements of the gameplay, such as scratching and crossfading. In order to bring in more people for the game, a prototype was made. This prototype was then shown to a slew of different artists and DJs in order to grab their attention, which for the most part was successful. Celebrity DJs who agreed to be a part of the game performed and recorded their mixes in a variety of ways. They were given goals that the team wanted to fulfill with the gameplay, but ultimately didn't want to hinder their creativity, leading to them creating their music either through Freestyle Game Studio or in their own studio or home if they desired. DJ Shadow specifically was brought in to work on the game a year into development. He helped with selecting songs, creating mixes, and providing input, all of which was a great benefit to the team that were mixing their own songs. When creating mixes, he he would make what he called a dry version of the mix, and then afterwards created a wet version that included the gameplay elements of scratching, crossfading, and other embellishments. All in all, there were a grand total of 93 different mixes throughout DJ Hero. Most, but not all, mixes would contain 2 different songs that would be played between each other. Some of those mixes included Boom Boom Pow and Satisfaction, Hollaback Girl and Feel Good Inc., Jukebox Hero and DJ Hero, Tutti Frutti and Beats, and literally way too many more. It's actually impressive how many different mixes there are, although there are definitely a lot of repeat songs throughout the game, but because they're all mixed so differently, most of the time you can't even tell, or it doesn't stand out too much to be a problem.
DJ Hero was released on October 27, 2009 for the PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii. And while I do have the game, since you can basically find it at any game store for $10, I didn't bother buying the turntable since I already said that I'm only covering one instrument for this video, the guitar. I just thought it was worth noting since it's part of the wiki word. What, are you kidding me? Of course I bought this thing. Look at how ridiculous it is. I just had to try it out. I'm pretty sure that I played a demo of this at Best Buy back in the day. I'm also pretty sure that I just went neat and then promptly erased all memory of the game forever. But as I was working on this video, I was actually getting really excited to try this thing out since it was so new to me. But before we start playing, how do you actually use this thing?
Similar to Guitar Hero, you have a highway of notes that are coming your way, but instead of strumming, you have to tap the notes when they cross the playing field. Notes on the left and right are tracks 1 and 2 respectively, and the notes in the middle are sound effects. But there's far more to it than that. There are some instances where you need to scratch the disc while holding the button down. On Expert, which of course is what I played on, you have to scratch in a very specific direction. But that's not all. You'll also see points when the track switches. That's your cue to use the crossfader with your left hand to fade the song either to the left, right, or back to the middle. Right above the crossfader is an FX knob that you can twist around during specific moments that works like a whammy bar, except unlike a whammy bar, it actually rewards you with double points similar to Star Power. Speaking of Star Power, there's also something called Euphoria that works exactly like Star Power. No difference between the two whatsoever. And then finally, there's points in the game where you'll earn a rewind. Get a big enough streak and you're rewarded with said rewind, which you can then spend at any point by spinning the disc. The song will then rewind to a certain checkpoint and continue from there. This is mainly for getting high scores and really nothing else. You see, you can't fail in this game. You can only do so bad that you don't get enough stars to finish the game, but you'd have to be especially bad to not be able to finish the game because there is quite a bit of leeway when it comes to the total amount of stars you need.
Up front, this new peripheral is a bit daunting. I was kind of worried I wasn't going to be able to get the hang of it. I wouldn't really say that my Guitar Hero skills translated over very well to this, but my sense of rhythm absolutely did, and I was able to pick it up pretty quickly. Hey, I might even be able to host my own DJ set.
DJ Club! Playing this just felt so much more natural to me than I thought it would. I just felt so, what's the best word for it? Powerful as I was playing. It just feels good to move so fast between both of your hands to make these crazy mixes. In fact, I was moving so fast that it kind of turned into quite a bit of a workout.
With all the scratching and crossfading I was doing, I was actually getting kind of sweaty after long sessions of play. I even at one point gave myself carpet burn on my arm since it's resting on my leg.
But of course, the game has its own fair share of problems. For some reason, tap notes that are right next to each other that have you press it in rapid succession don't register. No matter how fast I hit them, they just don't register sometimes, which really doesn't feel good. There's also this really weird scratch they like for you to do on Expert that I just could never wrap my head around, where they want you to continually scratch in the same direction, which really doesn't make sense to me since you don't have that much room to spin the disc that far.
I'm sure I was only doing this wrong though, so maybe somebody could explain it to me in the comments.
But other than that, this game is extremely well made, and I'm honestly impressed. I found myself trying really hard to get as high of a score as possible, and although you can't fail, it can still be pretty challenging. Having to watch for crossfading transitions or scratching and tapping at the same time is exhilarating, especially when you nail it, keep your streak, and then rewinding it so you can do it all over again just to rack up your score. It's even got an insanely difficult mix at the very end called Groundhog, which is basically the Dragon Force level of difficulty song for this game. It's wildly difficult, but so satisfying to play if you can manage to pull it off. I was only able to get 3 stars on it, but that was satisfying enough with how difficult it was. This game just gets my blood blood pumping. I love it. Outside of the gameplay, Freestyle Games did a great job with the game's aesthetic and vibe. In a way, it felt reminiscent of the first Guitar Hero in its attempts to capture that rocker inside of you. DJ Hero's aesthetic is going for that hip-hop artist inside of you. Now that does lead to some hideous designs like this monstrosity, but everything just screams old school, down to the venues, art albums, accessories, and more. Like these samples you can use throughout your songs. There's so many to choose from, but we all know Posh is the correct sample to use.
Oh my goodness.
And unlocking all that cool stuff is as simple as just playing the game. No need to grind for in-game money, do challenges, or anything like that. You can even unlock Daft Punk, which is sick. There's just so much about this game to love. They even took a page out of World Tour's book and made all the songs you play part of set lists so that they all play back to back. And then they took it even one more step and made it so that there's no loading screen at all once you start the song. You finish it and it just immediately goes into the next song, which feels so much better than having to go back to the menu after every song. My love for this game was probably also accelerated by my personal love for EDM and house music, which would make sense since there's so much of that in this game. So if that's not really your thing, you may not enjoy this as much, but as far as gameplay goes, I was blown away by how much fun I was having.
And you know what's wild? This game required no calibration. I know, it's crazy, right? It just worked!
Now, you can calibrate it if you have to, but there was zero reason for me to. The only calibration I had to do was because of the...
Oh, you thought you could get away from me, didn't you?
Yes, there are guitar parts in this game. Not a whole lot, only 10, but it was nice to see that they kept something like this in the game. I only had to calibrate it once and it worked immediately. Guitar Hero 5 should be embarrassed for DJ Hero to outplay it like this. Like, come on, how did a DJ game do guitar better than you? But even if it wasn't calibrated, you can't fail guitar songs either. You're only meant to go after a high score, so between the guitar and the turntables, this game really isn't all too difficult. And because of that, you can just leisurely play it without having to stress about hitting a difficulty wall.
Now, the idea of making it not losable is probably why I liked it so much. Either that, or after the turd that was Guitar Hero 5, I was probably ready for a change of pace. Regardless if you hate EDM or hip-hop, if you like rhythm games, I think you're really gonna like this. Picking up this skill and executing it just feels so good, and it deserves way more love than I know it gets. It really felt like nobody gave this thing a chance, and that's really sad because regardless of how ridiculous this thing looks, it is one of the most innovative, most well thought out, and most fun peripherals I've had the chance of playing since, well, you know, the guitar.
With that, this game easily goes in between World Tour and Aerosmith. I was not expecting this game to impress me. I was expecting it to be some weird gimmick game, and while it is some weird gimmick game, you can definitely tell that the amount of development that they put into it is much longer and more thought out than any of the recent Guitar Hero games, so I'm pretty happy with where I put it in my list.
Oof, I was not expecting that. What a ride. You know what? Instead of going back to Saturated City, how about we keep this party train rolling with...
Developed by Freestyle Games, yet again, DJ Hero 2 only took them 7 months to develop. Due to player feedback, the developers felt like the first DJ Hero was way too oversaturated with hip-hop since it took up most of the aesthetics and 60% of the songs. Because of this, they wanted to go for a much cleaner approach and wanted to add plenty of quality of life improvements on top of that. The final mix total for DJ Hero 2 was 83, containing combinations such as War by Edwin Starr and Waters of Nazareth by Justice, ABC by the Jackson 5 and OPP by Naughty by Nature, Axel F by Harold Faltermeyer and Get Busy by Sean Paul, and featured many other artists such as David Guetta, Deadmau5, DJ Qbert, Tiesto, and RZA, all of whom helped work on mixes for the game. And while the creation of the mixes was extremely similar to the first DJ Hero, scratches were actually recorded by performing a record scratch on a real DJ deck in an effort to make the game even more authentic.
On October 19th, 2010, DJ Hero 2 released for the PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii, and the crowd went... mild.
Unfortunately, this game came out at a pretty rough time since Guitar Hero was busy digging their own grave.
It ain't gonna dig itself!
Because of that, it severely damaged this game's chances of selling well at all, causing it to be 63% below total sales of the last few Guitar Hero games released in 2009.
But if you think that's going to stop me for a second, you've got another thing coming. I loved the last game, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like this one too.
Right out of the gate, I can definitely tell what they meant by cleaner aesthetic. This game looks really sharp. You're also met with a ton of new additions right up front. First of all, taking a page out of World Tour's book, they added the addition to choose your logo and club name.
club.
It's a bit odd though. You only get to pick from a few pre-selected ones and don't get to actually customize it. But you know what? After having to make a ton of logos in the other Guitar Hero games, I wasn't nearly as bothered. After you select your options, you begin with what they call an empire, which is their take on a story. Nothing too crazy. You're starting a DJ empire, so you need to jump from venue to venue to perform and make a name for yourself. That's about it. Once you start actually playing, that's when we start seeing the bigger changes. The UI has received a major uplift, making it way easier to see how many stars you have, and also when your rewind is about to expire when the songs are about to end. There's even some additional gameplay elements added. For example, there are now sustains for tap notes and scratches. With tap notes, it works exactly like how it does on Guitar Hero, where you have to hold down the button. But for the scratches, you have to keep rotating the disc in the direction indicated on the arrow to perform the sustain. They also added a new freestyle mechanic for practically everything, and these freestyles are way better than how they handled them in the first one. The first freestyle change is to the red sound effect button. Now when the freestyle section for it comes up, the sound effect will match to whatever song you're currently listening to, replacing the sample button in the first game. The next freestyle addition is to the crossfade, which allows you to take control over the fader and to be experimental in what you can and can't hear from each track. And last, of course they added freestyle to scratching, allowing you to scratch as you please.
Finally!
But we're not even close to being finished with all the new changes. They also added in what's called mega mixes at the beginning of every venue, which are set lists like normal, except that the songs are all blended into each other. Easiest way to explain it is it's like you're playing one big chart and it all flows so smoothly and nicely together. Even the set lists that weren't mega mixes felt like they flowed into the next song much quicker, which just keeps the pacing of the game feeling so good. And get this, you can even go right into the next set list after finishing one without going back to the menu. The amount of quality of life changes is just off the record.
Pun totally intended, but despite all these wonderful new additions and changes, there was one new addition that didn't feel so good.
DJ battles. On paper, DJ battles sounds like a great idea. Break up the monotony with some battles against NPCs or familiar faces like Deadmau5 or David Guetta.
But here's the problem. They are rigged!
There are a ton of these battles throughout the game, so I've definitely got the hang of them now, but I know with 100% certainty that the difficulty is artificial and random.
Alright, that's a bold claim, so let me just explain how this works.
There are two types of battles. Ones where you get the same exact notes, and ones where you both trade blows at each other, dueling banjo style. But in both instances of the battle, your goal is to have a higher percentage at each checkpoint to score a point. Score enough points, and you win.
Now that all sounds simple, right? But percentage? So what, you have to hit more notes better than your opponent? No! Of course not! I don't know what you're supposed to do!
That is the obvious answer, do better than your opponent. But sometimes it doesn't matter and they get the point anyways. I did learn one thing that does greatly affect your percentage, and that's the aforementioned freestyle sections. You see, if you and your opponent are both given a freestyle section at the same exact time, whoever activates the freestyle first locks the other one completely out of the freestyle, causing the percentage of whoever activated the freestyle to skyrocket.
Okay, that's pretty good news, right? So just be the first one to activate it and...
Nope, they're frame perfect, screw you. I'm not kidding. I counted and you get maybe 4 frames to make your move or the AI is taking it from you. You don't get a choice. There's even instances where I'll beat out the AI, miss way less notes than it does, and hold a much longer streak just for it to still say, sorry, not good enough. Just feels random, full of luck, unfun, unbelievably, abysmally, terribly rigged. There is, however, one upside to all of this. I learned that the only reward you get is cosmetics, DJ decks that help you go for high scores, and the song you were battling with becomes available in quick play. That's it. Nothing else, no sort of progression, nothing. There is absolutely zero reason for me to torture myself enough to try and do every single one of these, especially since there's no reward in it for me except replay value. I'm not doing them. Of course I did them all! I'm mentally insane! I don't know why I did. Call it Stockholm Syndrome, I guess. In a weird way, it was fun, but man, do I hate these. In the end, I couldn't beat 2 of them because I just couldn't put myself through that anymore. So I went ahead and beat them on hard and called it a day. Just wasn't worth it.
All right, that's enough about the battle. So how is the actual game outside of that?
Amazing in every way imaginable. Every issue I had with the first was resolved here. Tap notes felt way more responsive no matter how close they were together, and scratches in the same direction weren't nearly as frequent as they were in the first. But really, I think what's most important is that it's the same fun and enjoyable game the first one was. The songs are better, the charting is better, the quality of life is better, the pacing and flow is better, the attention to detail is better. This is an absolutely phenomenal rhythm game. It's sad that this game didn't perform all that well because outside of the DJ battles, I think this game is incredibly solid. It's just a shame that these types of games were becoming more and more undesirable as more rhythm games were releasing. They even had to cancel a 3DS DJ Hero game that was in the works that I think would have been really cool to see, but no one cared anymore.
Well, I did. I loved it, and I always will. Even as I was writing this part of the script, I was getting excited to pick it back up again. Heck, I want to pick it back up again right now. But first,
Let's put this bad boy right here, right above the first DJ Hero. Despite DJ battles, this game improves upon a system that was already good in a lot of different ways that honestly shocks me. I wasn't expecting them to make a ton of improvements, and I bet none of you were expecting me to have these games as high on my list as they are. But I guarantee you, look past the surface layer. These games, they're something special.
all right, now with that slight detour out of the way, it's time to get back on track with our next Guitar Hero game. Ah, right, I forgot. I can't wait.
You'll never believe it, but they were questioned yet again about the oversaturation of Guitar Hero games up to this point and were firm in their stance. That being that this is what fans wanted, and that when they released new iterations of their games, they tried to make it blatantly obvious how each game differed from another.
Did a real bang-up job there.
When the idea of Band Hero came around, the developers were in love with the idea of using a different name. That way they could use different songs entirely that didn't normally fit a Guitar Hero game.
That implies that the songs from Guitar Hero 5 did.
For said songs, 65 made it into the final game, and pretty much all of them are what most people were calling the top 40 in pop songs. Songs like Beautiful Soul by Jesse McCartney, Mr. Roboto by Styx, Wannabe by Spice Girls, Whip It by Devo, YMCA by Village People of all things. And of course, I can't forget the myriad of Taylor Swift songs, including Love Story, Picture to Burn, and You Belong With Me.
No way! Taylor Swift is in this game? I had no idea!
Regardless of her popularity now, her involvement in Band Hero was a huge marketing point for Activision, making sure you know without a doubt that she's in the game. And of course, similar to past games, she motion captured herself and blah 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 blah.
Look, do I even need to tell you anymore? If a celebrity is involved with the game, then they did motion capturing, okay? But now, it's time for the tea, sister.
Following up immediately after Guitar Hero 5, the game brought some baggage over to Band Hero. Similar to Kurt Cobain, the band No Doubt was featured in Band Hero and didn't really agree with how they were used throughout the game. So in turn, they joined Courtney Love in the act of suing Activision, which, if you'll remember, ended in October of 2012 for undisclosed terms.
On November 3rd, 2009, just a week after DJ Hero, Band Hero released for the Nintendo DS, PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii. And, nobody cared. Like, at all. These games have been coming out so quickly that no one can keep up anymore. And if you did play it,
Congratulations, man.
it's a disappointment. I just don't know what to say. I don't know what you want me to say. It's just Pop Guitar Hero 5. That's it.
Like, of course, it had new venues and new costumes, but that's it. End of story. The only difference that meant anything substantial to the game was the addition of highlighting your highway when you were doing challenges so that you knew what part of the challenge it was referring to. That's it. That's all they did. I feel like with previous genre-specific games, there was a kind of love that went into it. But the longer and deeper we go into this series, the more corporate greed starts to shine through as you realize that you've been playing the same exact game since World Tour. You can add in as many celebrities like Taylor Swift and Adam Levine as you want. You can fill your game to the brim with as many songs and slap it on the box cover. But if your game lacks any sort of soul at all? What's the point?
We've become so disjointed from what makes Guitar Hero, well, Guitar Hero in the first place. It's amazing to me how quickly they were able to milk this franchise dry.
I know this isn't technically Guitar Hero, but yeah, it is. They just changed the name to make their job easier and to make it more centered on band play instead of guitar play.
Which, newsflash, they were already doing that.
Then they chose the most poppy songs with super repetitive tracks and then alienated their entire core audience. Great idea, guys. Good job. You did it. There are literally songs in here that I can play with my eyes closed because it's just repeating the exact same notes over and over and over again. There are a few good guitar tracks like I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick, but only having a few good songs to play in a game like this is a crime. And they must have struggled with some songs because there are several that have zero guitar parts. So they just have you play piano or trumpet or whatever with your guitar. I think that's when you know you've messed up a franchise, a legacy, if you will. When you're that detached from what made you big in the first place, you're doomed to fail. I just don't know what to say. There just isn't a whole lot to say about this game that you don't already know since it's just Guitar Hero 5. I'm just incredibly bummed about this whole thing.
There is one positive thing that I can take away from this game. I actually prefer its set list over Guitar Hero 5. I know, shocker, right? But can you blame me? It's all pop songs. Of course, I know what So Yesterday by Hilary Duff and American Pie by Don McLean is, as opposed to, I don't know, Send a Little Love Token by the Duke Spirit.
Because of that small little positive, I'm going to be putting this right above Guitar Hero 5. But if I'm going to be honest, I don't think I'm ever going to be coming back to this game, not even for fun.
What a bummer. You know, I guess I should have expected that since everyone kept dunking on Band Hero all the time, but playing them in order just made it that much worse. Well, here's to hoping that the next game will be a lot better, and I actually haven't heard of this specific game. So right up front, the reason why I never heard about this game is because of two things, with the first being that this game released as a download code alongside Guitar Hero 5, with it getting a retail release later, which is already weird enough as is, but the second thing is that there is mysteriously no documentation about this game, almost none. At least from the research that I did.
It was believed that the band members of Van Halen had recorded motion capture similar to previous games, but there was no behind-the-scenes footage, no interviews, no pictures, nothing. That is until a Reddit user by the name of Aerosmith on Guitar Hero subreddit posted this picture of Adam Jennings, the lip-sync motion capture artist for Guitar Hero, and David Lee Roth from Van Halen, that it was finally confirmed that the band did do motion capture for the game.
Now let's take this with a grain of salt, shall we? This was posted on Reddit of all places, and by a user who just so happens to have the photo. Okay.
I tried to source the photo, and this was its origin, and there is no explanation on the post for how they acquired such a photo. They even took it a step further and posted another photo of Eddie Van Halen in a mocap suit less than a year ago. So I guess you be the judge? I'm sure it could very much be legitimate, since it seems Aerosmith is very active in the Guitar Hero community.
Outside of that, we only have a little bit more information. Similar to previous games, Van Halen did help with selecting the music, but you know it wouldn't be a Guitar Hero game at the end of the franchise's lifespan if there wasn't just a little bit of controversy.
Most of it circled around the selection of music. The final set list had 47 songs and weirdly lacked any songs from the era of Sammy Hagar and Gary Sharon, only focusing on the David Lee Roth era, a choice not made by the man himself, but apparently Activision, one that upset fans deeply. But it didn't end there, as there was also deep confusion in the choice of filler songs like First Date by Blink-182, Pretty Fly for a White Guy by The Offspring, and Dope Nose by Weezer of all things. Guitar Hero Van Halen's controversy didn't end there, however, as most people were speculating that the game was almost cancelled and shouldn't have existed, that it was rushed and shoehorned into Guitar Hero 5 as a bundle in hopes that most people would forget about it and not seek it out.
That's all really speculation though, as is most of the development of this game, but despite everything, Guitar Hero Van Halen got its retail release on December 22nd, 2009 for the PS2, PS3, Wii, and Xbox 360. And before we dive deeper into that, I want to draw your attention attention to something. This whole time I've been going on and on about oversaturation and how Guitar Hero games have been coming out way too quickly.
Well, you see, this was the last game to release in 2009. So from the first release in March all the way to December, there was a grand total of 7 Guitar Hero games in 2009. 7! And before that, going back to 2005, there were 8 other games. And why did they do this? Was it because they needed to bounce back from the recession of 2008? Was it to compete with Rock Band? Perhaps. But 7 in 1 year? That's too many. And I hope this better illustrates why these games are getting worse and worse. But let's give Guitar Hero Van Halen the benefit of the doubt and boot it up. It's just Metallica 2, which was just World Tour.
All right, you know what? I am relieved to be back in the World Tour engine. It just has so much more life in it than the Guitar Hero 5 one.
But I would be lying if I didn't say how much of a copy-paste this feels to Metallica, down to the facts and lyrics feature where you can get info about specific songs from Van Halen. The only thing they added, as far as I can tell, is a Van Halen soundboard, which, okay, nice, I guess. And new models for the band, of course, with Eddie Van Halen specifically modeled to look like he consumes children.
In all seriousness though, I think the biggest thing that I love about this game, especially after playing Guitar Hero 5 and Band Hero, is that it just feels like a proper Guitar Hero game.
And what I mean by that is that the songs chosen for the game are insanely fun to play. Despite what critics and reviewers might have said about this game's setlist, I actually think it's the most solid setlist in any band-centered game. There was rarely a song that felt boring to play, and pretty much every Van Halen song was a blast. On top of that, if the song was a little on the slow side as far as gameplay goes, it more than makes up for it with the song being an absolute bop to listen to. I was just overall impressed with the set list here, and when I was doing research and seeing all the hate for it, I was a little confused. Even skimming over my recorded footage proved me right. Every time I picked a random point in my footage, there was some sick guitar solo, progression, or riff of some kind that looked insanely fun to play.
So I don't know, it might have just been me, but diving a little deeper into the game, I can definitely see why people thought this was rushed.
The models are the biggest giveaway to this. While in Aerosmith and Metallica, you could really tell how much love they put into motion capturing every song, you can't really feel that as much here. Now don't get me wrong, they definitely motion captured this, but it just feels off in a weird way. There's like a slight bit of jankiness to everything, almost like it's not them. Maybe they didn't actually record the motion capture. Maybe someone else did and pretended to be them. Who knows? Jeez, now they've got me speculating.
But that's just a theory, a game theory.
I miss him so much.
But the game was even missing things like 2D animations or some sort of story that they usually use to give the game some sort of progression, which felt super odd to me. Not necessary at all to have the animations, but a little disappointing, especially if you're a fan of Van Halen.
I had mentioned for the previous band-centered games that they felt like love letters, and that still stands, but for this game, I don't know, it feels more like a love text message.
Like, hey fans, here's a long-haired version of the band. That's cool, right? Anyways, there was never any era outside of David Lee Roth, so I don't know what other songs you're talking about. I'm just not too sure what Activision was thinking or what was happening behind the scenes, but something had to be going on. Regardless of how poor I feel like they handled this game compared to most, I actually had a really good time playing it, and I was finally starting to struggle with some of the songs in the later game, which was really nice to see since I had been basically falling asleep playing Guitar Hero 5 and Band Hero. The last few songs of this game are quite literally just guitar solos, nothing else, and I love that. It was actually here when I noticed that they might have put a little bit more forethought into the animations for the models than I had previously thought. Just watching the way Eddie plays the guitar makes me think that they tried a little harder than I gave them credit for. Outside of the animations though, the actual songs are beasts. Yet again, I was given songs that made me rub blisters on my fingers from using the slider way too fast, but I didn't care because I was having fun playing these solos based solely on how cool they sounded and how challenging they were. Eruption was really the only one that gave me any trouble, but after just a few attempts, I knocked it out of the park, and the crowd seemed to agree.
Honestly, I don't think I gave this game as fair a chance as I think it deserves. Hearing all the negative reviews and nasty rumors painted a really ugly picture. But I went in, I had fun, the songs were great, and most importantly, it was guitar first, band second. And so I'm going to put it here with the rest of the band-centered games. While I felt like this had the best band-centered set list as far as gameplay and level of difficulty goes, it felt a little lackluster in the attention to detail and love that the other band games had nailed. You know, it's at this point in my journey that I think I'm really starting to feel the oversaturation that everyone else was feeling back in 2009. And I think it's really affecting my love for these games. I bet if I had only played Guitar Hero Van Halen, or if it was the first Guitar Hero I ever played, I bet I would have really loved it, without a shadow of a doubt. But after 18 Guitar Hero games, I'm tired. I need to go out and get some air.
I just don't know if I can keep this up. Wasn't there supposed to be 30 Guitar Hero games? And I've only played 18? I'm only a little over halfway there. What am I going to do? Can't quit. I've made it this far, but it's getting harder and harder to enjoy these games. I need something new, something fresh. But Activision isn't capable of changing up anything, are they? I need help. I need help from the big man.
Hey, God, if you can hear me, could you give me a Guitar Hero game that doesn't feel like the past 10-ish that I've played? Thank you. It's beautiful. It's...
After poor sales from several Guitar Hero games, Activision wanted to, in turn, make several changes. This included dissolving Red Octane completely and bringing in direct members of Activision to work on the game. The current project lead and former Neversoft member Brian Bright sought to create a Guitar Hero that would please the older Guitar Hero fans. Guitar Hero 5 was targeted at everyone, and he said, quote, "We were trying to please everyone out there, and I think in the end, you end up not pleasing any one person a lot when you do that."
All right, I like what I'm hearing.
They wanted to make a game that felt like Guitar Hero 3 again, and because of that, they wanted the soundtrack to be more focused on rock and roll than previous games.
Yeah, keep going.
They also wanted to make a game with its own unique identity. Quote, "Rather than go head to head with our own games and our own competitors, we decided we wanted to make something different."
Oh man, I think I'm gonna cry. It's so beautiful.
Using statistics they had gathered from Guitar Hero 5, they learned that 40% of the player base was playing on Expert and wanted to cater directly to that audience.
Yes! Let's go!
This was exactly what I wanted. I'm so unbelievably happy right now. Why has it taken them this long to do this?
I feel like it should have been painfully obvious that Guitar Hero should go down this route in the first place. I don't know what took them so long. I am curious though, did they actually go through with this or were they lying to us? Yep, this is gonna be the best Guitar Hero ever.
Not only is there the theme from Spider-Man, but there's a grand total of 93 songs. 93 songs, mind you, that are all amazing. Songs like Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, Backcountry by Avenged Sevenfold, Bodies by Drowning Pool, Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater, Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, Money for Nothing by Dire Straits, and just an absolutely insane amount of songs. And I'd say about 95% of these slap, but we'll go into more detail here in a bit.
On September 24th, 2010, Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock released for the PS3, Wii, and Xbox 360, and it is so unbelievably good. There's just so much to unpack here.
First of all, I kid you not, there is an actual storyline to the game. One that goes well beyond simply adding 2D animated cutscenes. I'm talking an actual plot with rendered cutscenes and even fully narrated by none other than Gene Simmons from Kiss. When contacted, he had originally thought they were going to ask him about including a Kiss song in the game, but once they asked him to be the narrator, he was super intrigued since it reminded him of his onstage persona, so he happily agreed.
Now don't get me wrong, while there is a story, I'm not talking like Final Fantasy levels of story here. No. I'm talking more like Mario levels of story. But even still, the fact that there even is a story in Guitar Hero is way over what they've ever done in a Guitar Hero game, and it doesn't even stop there.
You see, the whole story goes like this. The demigod of rock was defeated and imprisoned by a powerful beast, losing his legendary guitar in the process. It's up to you to gain the Warriors of Rock, retrieve the legendary guitar, and bring down the beast that imprisoned him. But who are the Warriors of Rock? Well, none other than the guitar heroes from previous games. I love this so much. It's so cool to see them giving just a little bit more story to these characters that we've known since the first game. Yet again, it's not a ton, but it's so wildly different to anything that Guitar Hero has done in the past that I'm 100% on board with it. But this addition to having to play as specific characters leads to some really interesting gameplay additions. You see, throughout the game, you're having to retrieve as many stars as possible on every song, just like how you would with previous games. But a measly 5 stars isn't enough to defeat the beast and save the demigod of rock. You're going to need more if you're wanting to help him out. So to do just that, each character comes equipped with a specific power to help you get more stars. For example, Johnny's multiplier will never go below ×2, and if you manage to get it and keep it at ×4, you'll get more stars the longer you keep it there. Judy's is that your rock meter can now extend well past the green success mark, and the more you fill it up, the more stars you'll get. These are just a couple of examples, but all 8 warriors have wildly new abilities to help you rack up as many stars as possible. But that's just the start of it when it comes to their powers. If you collect enough stars, you'll awaken their true warrior form, where they'll take on a radically new appearance and their power will be drastically increased.
This is absolutely nuts. The amount of creativity and thought that went into this is crazy.
It's so nice that after we've gotten nothing but what felt like DLC packs after DLC packs, that we've finally gotten something that has breathed new life into the franchise by adding a completely new and original idea on how to experience Guitar Hero.
But it only gets better.
Not only does every single song that I come across contain an exhilarating chart with absolutely banging music, but halfway through the game they throw a curveball at you. It's time for the warriors you've collected so far to pull the legendary guitar from the cave in which it lays. But the only way to do that is to play through the entirety of Rush's 2112, a 20-minute song.
Now, yes, I have complained about there being long songs in Guitar Hero as well, but this is handled entirely different.
First of all, the song is broken up into 7 parts, so if you really wanted to, you could take a break, but more importantly, you don't have to worry about failing and having to redo the whole thing, which is such a brilliant design choice. On top of that, the entire sequence is being narrated by the band members of Rush. How unbelievably metal is that? This honestly may be one of the best things Guitar Hero has ever done, and that's not even mentioning that the UI now has a playhead marker on it now. So now you know exactly how much is left in the song. No more sitting on the edge of your seat, hoping and praying that it's not about to destroy you with the hardest solo in the world last second.
It's like they heard every complaint I had in previous Guitar Hero games and addressed them in Warriors of Rock.
They even fixed the calibration in the game by allowing you to play a short section after you've calibrated to make sure it feels right to you, something I had been complaining about for several games.
They just keep doing everything right, and you know what? It's still getting better.
Every game after World Tour, I've had zero issue playing the songs as far as difficulty goes, being able to breeze my way through practically every song scot-free. But by set list 2 of this game, I was already starting to struggle, and I loved that. Finally, a real challenge that I could sink my teeth into, something that actually takes practice to perfect. And just like how in something like Zelda, where you can feel yourself getting stronger as you progress, I could feel that in this game too. Not only with the powers I was obtaining, but the actual skill I was acquiring as it continued to throw more and more complex songs at me.
And I was going to need that skill for what they throw at you at the very end, but how do you think they did it? You know, the fight with the beast. Do you maybe do a guitar battle like in Guitar Hero 3? Or maybe you just have to complete the song and that's it? No.
Try getting to create your own 2 teams of 4 to go into battle so you can get enough stars to defeat the beast. It isn't just enough for you to simply beat the song, you have to have the right combination of warriors' powers to ensure you'll be able to meet the requirement. It almost felt like I was playing an RPG at this point, mixing and matching my party to make sure I had the most optimal band I could possibly have. What even is this game and why is it so good? It took me several attempts to surpass the Megadeth songs, but after you get past the first 2, you have one final Megadeth song that Dave Mustaine wrote himself called Sudden Death, where you have to use all 8 of your powers combined together together to finally vanquish the beast once and for all.
I cannot even express to you how metal this is. When I think about Guitar Hero, this is what I think of. Shame on me for missing out on this growing up, but I sure am glad that I'm experiencing it now. But listen, we're not even close to being done. We have so much replayability to cover.
While past games covered replayability by letting you use money to buy funny guitars or costumes, this game takes it a whole step forward. After you beat Quest Mode, you'll gain the ability to use all of your powers on every song. And if you manage to get 40 stars on every song from a venue, you'll unlock a ghost version for your warriors based on the venue you chose. And while I had originally intended on doing that for every venue, getting 40 stars means practically playing the song flawlessly when using the powers to their full extent. While at first that seemed possible, you also unlock some new songs at the end as well, all of which are crazy levels of difficult. They even went as far as putting a new Dragon Force song in there. And I don't mean a Dragon Force level difficulty, I mean an actual Dragon Force song. Thanks for that.
And yes, I did beat all of these on Expert just to say that I did, but I did them using the powers.
Which doesn't make them baby mode easy or anything like that. You still have to hit a large percentage of the notes, it just makes them more feasible to beat for casual expert players like me.
So I don't know, call me a pleb or whatever for not beating them without the powers. I really don't care. I'm well aware that I'm a pleb.
But wait, there's so much more. If you don't even want to partake in Quest Mode, or if you just want something else to do after you've played it, there's the new Quick Play Plus mode. Basically, this works exactly how Guitar Hero 5 and Band Hero worked, where when you play a song, it will give you a challenge to do, and if you complete them, you can unlock some cool rewards. Except they even updated that to work differently and better. Now every song has 3 challenges for every instrument, so you can play however you want. You can even choose whichever challenge you want to show up on the UI during the song to make sure you're going to complete that specific challenge. Lastly, rewards work on a rank system. The more challenges you complete, the more rewards you'll get as you rank up. You can get things like behind the scenes concept art, videos, new cosmetics, and even new venues. Like what? They just did everything they could to make this the 100% without a doubt best Guitar Hero game of all time. And there are some things that remained from previous games that probably should have changed, like the highways and note streaks still not being as unique as they were back in the Guitar Hero 3 days, but I think the multitude of other changes and quality of life improvements far outweighs those slight grievances. You can just feel the love they put into this in every corner, from the minute you boot it up all the way up to the credits featuring animated pictures of all the wonderful people who worked on this game.
I cannot explain to you all how satisfying, exhilarating, fun, and other adjectives this game is. I just had this big ol' smile on my face the entire time I was playing. This is what Guitar Hero needed. It needed to go back to what made Guitar Hero Guitar Hero. Focus on guitar, make your charts fun, pay homage to the greats of rock and lift them up, make me want to play as your goofy characters, choose fun songs, and most importantly, make me want to come back and play your game again. This game is without a doubt the best Guitar Hero game ever. It's pretty hard for something to beat out my nostalgia, but when I made this decision, and even right now, I am confident that this is the best Guitar Hero game ever. If you haven't played this game and you love Guitar Hero, do yourself the hugest favor and play this game. Despite how much I love this game, it didn't matter to the fans and reviewers at the time. Activision had been causing so much self-harm to the franchise throughout all of 2009 that by the time the game came out, the damage was already done. Nobody cared about Guitar Hero anymore. It didn't matter how many bells and whistles you added to your game. The era of Guitar Hero was over.
The final death of Guitar Hero came on February of 2011. Warriors of Rock didn't meet expectations, and because of that, Activision shuttered the Guitar Hero division, canceling any ideas or projects they may have been working on at the time.
And at the time, this was the correct call to make. Nobody was really devastated by this because they were so tired of seeing plastic instruments and differently named Guitar Heroes everywhere. But that doesn't mean that the fan base was dead. They were still uploading videos and making social posts, and that didn't go unnoticed by Activision. So they decided to try it one more time. One more Hail Mary! But this time, they were gonna start from scratch.
Around the time of conception, as mentioned earlier, CEO of Activision, Eric Hirshberg, had noticed that even without a game for the past 5 years, love for Guitar Hero was still very much noticed on social media, with their Facebook account gaining 10 million followers. Noticing a still growing love for the franchise, they wanted to bring it back, but with a fresh coat of paint. Their goal was to reinvent the series in an attempt to divide itself from the oversaturation of previous games. At the time, Freestyle Games, the developers of DJ Hero, had just wrapped on the game Sing Party for the Wii U, and were currently ready to start on something new. That was when Hirshberg suggested Guitar Hero, and offered to give them the freedom of designing the game without having to rely on previous games from the franchise. When creation got underway, developer Jamie Jackson encouraged the team to only think of Guitar Hero as a name, and to act like it had never existed before, to create a Guitar Hero game and peripheral from scratch. All right, club, go ahead.
Yeah, could I get Guitar Hero 200?
Developed by Freestyle Games, Guitar Hero Live was set to entirely change the peripheral and gameplay of Guitar Hero.
What is the stupidest decision a developer could make, ruining the relationship with their fan base?
That is correct!
Yes! I just can't believe that they thought that this was what was best for the franchise, but let's just give them the benefit of the doubt.
When designing the game, they quickly learned that having a guitar peripheral was the only way, as any other method just didn't feel right or fun.
No shit.
They wanted to create a guitar that you would feel okay with having in your living room, and looked to redesign the guitar altogether, trying to make it as close to a real guitar as possible.
And that I can kind of get behind, since the others were kind of flashy, but come on, I can't be spending more money on a peripheral in game. I've already spent so much money in this video, I can't be spending more!
I have a problem.
This is Guitar Hero Live for the Wii U, the only version of this game I could afford without having to pay the cost of my mortgage. It came with a guitar, it came with a dongle, and it also came with where? Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh. And one game. Now, let's talk about this controller. Now, with the typical controllers, it had 5 buttons, but this one has 6. However, they've been split down the middle, with 3 of them being up top and the other 3 being on the bottom. And you know what? I can kind of get behind that.
Now, as far as how that works in game, hold on a second. Before we talk about that, are those people? Like real people? What the heck? Yeah, so to make you really feel like Spider-Man, a rocker, they decided to go with this first-person perspective for who you're playing as and have you actually interact with the band members and crowd.
Huh. I kind of vibe with this.
It's honestly a really nice take on how to experience these games. However, I would be lying if I didn't say I missed all the older models from the original games, as hideous as they were. While I was playing through, I grew pretty suspicious of how they were able to pull some of these shots off, cause some of them are kind of insane. Turns out that they went about doing this with a robotic camera that was programmed to move in a certain way every time to get the perfect shot. And to make sure it moved correctly, they first shot the footage with an actual actor and used their motion data to apply it to the camera, which is a super intelligent way of handling it. To get shots of the crowd, they had anywhere from 200 to 400 actors on a green screen to form a pretty good sized crowd, and then if they needed more, they superimposed footage from real rock concerts or 3D models, which looked seamless in the game. I couldn't even tell. It's actually quite impressive. And as far as how they got the actors for the band that are actually playing the songs, they held an audition process to make sure that they could actually perform every song within a set. And if they passed, they were included as part of one of the fake bands you played sets with. Sets, mind you, that work like World Tour again, with a little DJ Hero 2 sprinkle thrown in. You are actually physically playing through a set list on stage with a band, something that I believe they were trying to fulfill in World Tour, but actually accomplished here. It's really satisfying. But what songs are you playing? Well, this is much later in Guitar Hero's life, so more songs had come out, and because of that, they focused more on recent songs, with a grand total of 42 songs on disc, with the ability to play other songs a different way, which I'll explain later. Some of the songs included were Counting Stars by One Republic, Demon Lemons by Imagine Dragons, Ho Hey by the Lumineers, The Killed by 30 Seconds to Mars, Light 'Em Up by Fall Out Boy, Bang and Rain by Skrillex for some reason, and songs of a similar caliber.
On October 20th, 2015, Guitar Hero Live released for the PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, Wii U, and iOS. iOS? We'll look into that here in a second. For now, let's take a look at how the gameplay here works.
Similar to the original Guitar Heroes, you need to press the frets and strum as the notes cross the playing field. Hammer-ons and pull-offs, sustains, and other unique techniques work exactly the same. It's how you play that's different. Like I said earlier, there are 6 buttons on 3 different spots of the fretboard. Black notes require you to press the buttons on the top, and white notes require you to press the buttons on the bottom. And combination notes, or as they're called in the game, bar notes, require you to press both the top and bottom at the same time. On paper, this is a great idea, but in practice, if you don't know how to play a real guitar, your muscle memory is going to completely screw you over. No matter how much I played, I just could not get my brain to put my fingers in the correct position when strumming chords. I have no idea why, but I would always put my fingers in the wrong position every time, and once I got them wrong and I saw a different note coming, instead of leaving my fingers put, I'd always switch it like an idiot.
I just couldn't get over my muscle memory from playing all the other Guitar Heroes. I got a little bit better the more I played, but nothing to the level that I was playing at in the other games.
And yes, I did play on Expert because guess what? You can't fail in this game either.
Thanks, Freestyle Games, for saving my skin yet again.
However, to show progression and how your performance is going, they decided to go with one of the best ideas I think they probably could have thought of for this game. Instead of having a rock meter like in previous games, the live action footage of the audience reacting to your performance will fade in and out to different emotional states based on how good you're doing. So if you're doing awful, like I was for the vast majority of the game, the audience is going to get unbelievably agitated with you, leading to some of the most unintentionally hilarious moments while I was playing the game. I have absolutely zero clue if they intended for these to be as funny as they are, but I was dying from laughter the entire time I was playing, so there's a positive in my book.
And you may be watching that terrible performance by me and thinking, oh, I could do that. I'm telling you, once you got this thing in your hands, your brain completely forgets how to function.
It probably didn't do myself any favors that the calibration, yet again, felt terrible. They use one of those systems again where they play a sound and go, does that sound right? I don't know, it looks right, let me play it! And then it's off by like a whole 5 seconds. What are we, 20 games in and we still can't get this right? They did have a system that would auto-calibrate to what it thought you were seeing and hearing as you were playing the song, which did work for one song and then it promptly broke on the next.
This is already weird enough, but if I can't even properly play your game, how do you expect me to get any joy out of it?
I even had issues with the audio levels for some reason. It was incredibly hard to hear the guitar parts through the crowd, other instruments, and sour notes I kept hitting, which isn't really a problem if you know the song, but if you've never heard it, you're basically going in blind, or deaf? You go in without the knowledge of the song, making it harder to play. And yes, I did check to make sure I could change the audio settings. You can't. You can't change anything, really. Needless to say, I powered through the whole game, beating it in 5.5 hours, and your reward for playing through everything is nothing. You get nothing. No credits, no good job, go for high scores, no cosmetics, nothing. The only thing you get is pictures of the actors pretending to be the band in some sort of gallery picture thing. So yeah, like I said, nothing. Here's why. When you boot up the game, there's 2 options to choose from. Guitar Hero Live, which is what I just talked about, and Guitar Hero TV. Guitar Hero TV was supposed to be the other side of the coin to this game, and quite literally 60% of the reason why you got the game in the first place. Guitar Hero TV was designed to work with the throwaway culture of society, and it was compared to the likes of Spotify and Pandora Radio as a way to get hundreds of songs on launch day without having to rely on DLC. The way it worked was it allowed you to play songs that were on rotation, similar to a radio broadcast. Players would play along to the music videos of said songs, and playing them could get you experience points and currency to use and buy cosmetics and other features of Guitar Hero TV. You could also spend real money to purchase the songs you've played so that you could own them forever. However,
They closed down the service in 2018, making it impossible for you to access it or the songs that you purchased, which means that 60% of this game doesn't even exist anymore.
Listen, this game was okay. I dare say it was much better than I expected. I was even getting pretty decent there towards the end and actually playing songs on quick play just for fun to see how good I could do. But any resemblance of what this game was initially intended to be is gone, leaving behind less than half of a game. Maybe it would be more worth it if there was another game, you know, something to make buying another peripheral worth it, but I don't know if I could ever recommend this game to anyone.
With DJ Hero, I feel like I could easily recommend that game because of how different it is and how well it plays and makes you feel, but I don't really get that feeling from this. In fact, it quite literally boos in my face. I think the only people that would like this game are people who don't like the original Guitar Hero, and that's quite literally my biggest grievance. It just feels so detached from Guitar Hero that I don't even know how it got its name in the first place. This just doesn't feel like a Guitar Hero game that I would ever want to play. It's cool, it's novel, but it's not what I wanted.
And because of that, the last Guitar Hero console game goes on the bottom of the console totem pole. I feel like I might play this again purely because of the novelty and the fact that I own it now, but when it comes to replaying any of the Guitar Hero console games again, I feel like this is always going to be my last choice.
Oh, you know what? I completely forgot to talk about the iOS version of Guitar Hero Live. My bad.
This thing was actually really impressive to hear about. Apparently, the entire Guitar Hero Live game was on iOS for iPhones and iPads, and you could just play it like you could on a console, syncing your guitar up to it and everything. How cool is that? I mean, it would be even cooler if you could still play it, but at the same time Guitar Hero TV went down, so did the iOS version.
December 1st, 2018 marked the actual death of Guitar Hero with the closure of GHTV. But what if I said that there were more? A whole other window of possibilities. I did say at the front of the video that there were 30 and Guitar Hero Live was 20, so that means that there are 10 more. But what are they? Where are they? When are they? Well, what if I said Guitar Hero Live wasn't the first game to do iOS? First of all, yes, I'm clinically insane. Second, while I did torture myself, I'm not about to torture all of you by making you listen to me talk 10 times about something like this. Cause spoiler alert, most of them are exactly the same. So here's the deal. We're gonna rapid fire all the ones that are similar, save 3 of them that go a little bit more in depth because they deserve the attention, and then we're gonna rank them all and call it a day. Sound good? Let's get started.
Lumping all these together, they were either designed, published, or both by Glue Mobile, Connect2 Media, Machine Works, or the real stars of making this crap, Hands On Mobile. Songs were kept short to help them fit on most phones, which led to them sounding like they were ran through a blender.
And if it wasn't already painfully obvious, when I'm talking about mobile games here, I'm not talking about like Angry Birds or Temple Run or stuff like that. No. I'm talking about things like this, the Razor or the Flight 2 or Blackberries or, you know, classics. And that's about all the information that I could find about the development of these games. There really wasn't a ton of information, and some of the information that was there was not correct because nobody bothered updating information about a bunch of old mobile games. If they don't care, why should I?
Got any games on your phone?
I don't think this really qualifies.
The way I played through these was by emulating them on my phone. At least I did for the first few before I got tired of that and started emulating them on my computer because they were becoming increasingly more and more obnoxious the further I went in. With everything laid out, let's get this over with. You ready? Here we go.
February 2008, Guitar Hero 3 mobile releases with 15 songs, all of which are from Guitar Hero 3 and 2, like Jessica by the Allman Brothers, Rock You Like a Hurricane by the Scorpions, or the already displayed Monster by Matchbook Romance. 2 characters, 4 guitars, audio lag is terrible, the game is garbage, and the mute button goes hard here. Next! Quarter 3 of 2008, Guitar Hero 3 Mobile Song Pack 1 releases. I know what it sounds like, but yes, this is considered a totally different game. It came with more songs from Guitar Hero 3 and 2, including War Pigs by Black Sabbath, Slow Ride by Foghat, Talk Dirty to Me by Poison, and more terrible sounding garbage. Despite this game's name, there was only ever one song pack, and we should always keep it that way. On November of 2008, Guitar Hero World Tour Mobile released with 15 songs such as Today by Smashing Pumpkins, Sweet Home Alabama by Lynyrd Skynyrd, Up Around the Bend by Creedence Clearwater, and other songs found within World Tour. It's the same game but with drums! November 24th, 2009, Guitar Hero 5 Mobile drops with 15 songs like Kryptonite by Three Doors Down, The Spirit of the Radio by Rush, Fame by David Bowie, and a ton of other garbage from that game. I downloaded 3 versions of this game, played them all, and none of them had the full set list. After doing research, apparently this game is as unfinished and a work of hate as the original game. I watched YouTube while playing it, that's how bad it is. June 2010, Guitar Hero 5 More Music, 15 songs, Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz, Song 2 by Blur, 20th Century Boy by T-Rex. September 2nd, 2010, DJ Hero Mobile. The game stated that it had 13 songs, but it never did. I Heard It Through the Grapevine by Marvin Gaye, mixed with Let's Dance by David Bowie, and ones of more songs. This wasn't that bad, and that's sad. October 7th, 2010, Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock Mobile, 15 songs, Crying by Aerosmith, Nemesis by Arch Enemy, Stray Cat Blues by the Rolling Stones, and other bangers dying of dehydration. This one plays the best, has the full songs, charts are actually challenging, and it carried over the abilities from the original game. Just like the console version, Warriors of Rock remains supreme, but it's still on mobile. Sometime in 2011, no one knows. Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock More Music Plus Super Ultra Deluxe featuring Funky Kong and Dante from the hit series Devil May Cry contained 10 songs. Call Me the Breeze by Lynyrd Skynyrd, Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top, and others. Still just as good, but not because, I don't know, not enough songs.
I did it. But we still have 3 more we need to talk about. Okay. First, let's talk about the iOS. In 2010, Activision pulled in Vicarious Visions one more time to make a Guitar Hero game.
Released on June 7th, 2010, and published on only iDevices, Guitar Hero iOS was a unique spin on the classic game that mostly had you following the same way of play as you would with the original Guitar Hero, but with a few touchscreen differences like swiping, for instance. The game came preloaded with 6 songs, with more you could buy as DLC. Such songs included were Cousins by Vampire Weekend, Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones, Savior by Rise Against, Say It Ain't So by Weezer, Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, and We Are the Champions by Queen.
The reason why this game is getting a special shout out is because on March 31st, 2014, it was removed from the App Store, making it impossible to download it again. If you deleted it at any point, it's gone. And since it's an Apple product, it's gone forever. There's no way to emulate it or rip it to be repurposed. So even though I played it as a kid, I couldn't play it here, so it won the greatest honor it could possibly achieve, not being remembered on the wall of ranking. I know. What an honor. And with that, we're down to the final 2. And this special duo is a real piece of work.
On July 18th, 2008, and April 28th, 2010, Guitar Hero 3 Backstage Pass and Guitar Hero World Tour Mobile Backstage Pass released, respectively.
Why am I talking about them at the same time? Well, 1, they're fundamentally the same game, and 2, to save both you and me the headache.
Each game had a whopping 5 songs, which included such classics as Woman by Wolfmother, I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Hot Blooded by Foreigner, 1979 by the Smashing Pumpkins, and...
Who cares about the rest? Because this isn't your typical Guitar Hero game. No, I wouldn't even call this a rhythm game. It's a boring, grindy, tasteless, uninspired, unfun, unlovable mobile minigame simulator.
That's literally all it is. You go around grinding minigames over and over and over and over again until you have enough money and audience to perform an actual song, only to play another minigame. And on top of that, my game soft-locked and nothing saved, so I had to do the whole thing all over again!
No, I'm done. I'm so done. I'm done. Video's over. Let's just go to the wall of ranking. I'm done. All right. We now have the final ranking. I'm kind of excited, but there's a lot here, so I'm gonna pass it over to VO Club. Take it away, buddy.
Thanks, Green Screen Club. Here we go. Number 30, Guitar Hero 3 Backstage Pass, Garbage Dumpster Fire. Number 29, Guitar Hero World Tour Mobile Backstage Pass, the other Garbage Dumpster Fire. Number 28, Guitar Hero 5 Mobile, the worst rhythm game. Number 27, Guitar Hero 5 Mobile More Music, the worst rhythm game 2. Number 26, Guitar Hero World Tour Mobile, at least they tried. Number 25, Guitar Hero 3 Mobile, they probably should have never even started. Number 24, Guitar Hero 3 Mobile Song Pack 1, but they did. Number 23, DJ Hero Mobile, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Number 22, Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock Mobile, More Music, passable, but still a mobile game. Number 21, Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock Mobile, if I had to play a mobile game, I still wouldn't play this. Number 20, Guitar Hero On Tour Modern Hits, was this even playtested for the fun? Because I can't find the fun. Number 19, Band Hero DS, the mobile minigames, but on DS. Number 18, Guitar Hero On Tour, a decent first attempt. attempt. Number 17, Guitar Hero On Tour Decades, but an even better second attempt. Number 16, Guitar Hero Arcade. Hard to play, but it's not its own fault, right? Number 15, Guitar Hero Live. Ha, nice try, but you done went and blew up the franchise. Number 14, Guitar Hero 5. Number 13, Band Hero. At least it doesn't deserve to be smashed. Number 12, Guitar Hero. If it was playable, I'm sure it would be great. Number 11, Guitar Hero Encore Rock the 80s. Still not playable, but hey, 80s music, am I right? Number 10, Guitar Hero 2. Not playable, but I know it's great. Number 9, Guitar Hero Smash Hits. Good songs filled with weird charts. Would replay. Number 8, Guitar Hero Van Halen. Missing some love, but still a solid time. Number 7, Guitar Hero Metallica. Has all the love and then some. Fantastic game. Number 6, Guitar Hero Aerosmith. It's Guitar Hero Metallica for people who like Aerosmith. Number 5, DJ Hero. Good enough to compete with the greats. A hidden gem doesn't even scratch the surface. Number 4, DJ Hero 2. Better than the original in every way. A must play for a new experience. Number 3, Guitar Hero World Tour. A strong start to Brain and Instrument. So strong it was copy and pasted for 10 other games. Number 2, Guitar Hero 3. One of the greatest of all time. The one that cemented the Guitar Hero aesthetic, song types, gameplay, charting, fun, and nostalgia. And finally, number 1, Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock. A game that completely blindsided me and left me with the most satisfying feeling that none of these other Guitar Hero games could even possibly dream to compete with. And with that, I present to you the Guitar Hero Wall of Ranking.
After 175 hours, 13 minutes, and 42 seconds, I beat every Guitar Hero on Expert. Huh. That is a lot of time I could have been doing something else.
And while I didn't beat every single song on Expert, I sure did feel like a real Guitar Hero after this journey. It's so wonderful to return to something like this that had such a huge part in my development as a kid, and finally experience all of it for the first time. And while most of them were pretty rough, I would buy a new Guitar Hero game in a heartbeat. Even with the rough games I had to play, I enjoyed almost every minute of it. Playing through each and every one of these songs and learning new things about bands featured in these games, or even maybe finding my new favorite genre, band, or song, this is a journey I will never forget.
And I'm so happy that I was able to share it all with you. The future of Guitar Hero is uncertain, but with the recent acquisition of Activision from Microsoft, it may happen. There's a small glimmer that there could be something there. Small. It's really small. Microsoft has been firing people left and right, so we could either see the franchise again, or it's going to sit on a shelf and rot for all eternity.
For right now, Clone Hero is the best option available to veterans or even casuals like me, and it's a good way to scratch that itch while we wait. There's also a fan game called Guitar Hero World Tour Definitive Edition that brings in a ton of new and returning songs, along with some crazy character models you can mess around with. Heck, even Rock Band is trying to start back up again with Fortnite Festival. Yeah, don't know how I feel about that yet.
So, with a heavy heart, I think it's finally time to say goodbye to Guitar Hero for now. But not before we answer one final question. Have I gotten better at real guitar? Let's go see. I think it's time. I'm ready. I need to perform for the masses, show them my true skills, and put on a show they'll soon never forget. They told me I was permanently banned. And with that, my journey that started back in July of 2023 to whenever the heck this video came out is finally complete. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me blabber on about one franchise for what, like at least 10 minutes, right? Well, anyway, if you did enjoy it, do me the hugest favor and subscribe and like to let me know if I did a good job. It'd be a huge help to see if this is something I need to start focusing on. Speaking of which, what'd you think of this whole me on the couch thing? You want to see it again, or are you tired of seeing my face and want me to go back to the avatar? Either way, you can let me know down in the comments, or you can click the link in the description, which will take you to my Linktree that houses all of my socials, so you can just connect with me there. Linktree also links to my overall video game ranking, where you can see where the Guitar Hero games I ranked in this video rank alongside other games. A huge thanks to all of my friends and family who supported me in making this video. I love you guys, and I love all of you who stuck around to watch this whole video. So why don't you come over to our Discord and spread some of that love? I'd love to talk to you guys about the video or future projects or even random video game stuff. And you can get even more access to those future projects by becoming a member either on Twitch or YouTube. You'll get exclusive early access to the development of my videos, some members only Discord channels, emojis, badges, and so on. And if you really want to support the channel, you can bump up your membership where you'll get a personalized shout out at the end of the video, or you could bump it up even further and get a personalized drawing of yourself or your avatar that will go at the end of the video as well. Totally not required at all, but let it be known that every penny I make on this channel is put right back into it, and I hope that's been made abundantly clear with how ambitious this project has been. It was fun, but I think I've talked for long enough. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope to see you next time, and I hope you continue to have a chill day.